a couple of items on the agenda that's been brought forward, 5.4 and 5.2, and they will follow immediately after the public forum. Okay, attendance. I gather we're all there. We're all here that should be here.
Yep.
That's a yes?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, moving on to apologies. Are there any apologies? If not, thank you. We'll move on to the public forum, and we welcome Ben. And we invite you to make your presentation, my friend.
Very good. So I'll just put this up and run through it. So can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, so there's three things I wanted to talk about today. So firstly is COVID's going to have a big impact on Tairua-Pauanui because we do have a lot of international people travelling through. And it's also hard on older men who lose their jobs. I've got a friend who's 55 who's been a travel agent for 30 years. He's just been told he's redundant. He doesn't know what to do with himself. So men's shed is something that can be helpful for men's mental health, which is something to consider, as well as doing good in the community. So I just wanted to run through some ideas. So the land at Redbridge Road would be ideal. It's this site here, which is underutilized. This 3-bayed shed, so that is Lou Parks' trailer in there, but it doesn't have much else use. It's already got electricity. The 4-bay shed nearby is Smart Environmental leases it, so you wouldn't touch that, but you could easily use this one. There's a lot of land here that's still underdeveloped, and there's a concrete pad and there's another shed with bits and pieces in it that could actually be built on too. So if the men's shed could use this one to begin with and ultimately move across to here, this shed is in the dump and is ready to be moved. That's what it looks like inside. It's not too bad. So these are kind of projects for blokes to do, keeps them busy. And I understand there's no specific issues by foreshore and seabed. You can see here that the foreshore and seabed's on the right-hand side, but the shed itself is outside of that. The Smart Environmental shed's caught by it, but not the sheds that are owned by TCDC, as long as you didn't go where the old shed was. So I was just seeking endorsement to move forward on this. There's a couple of people I'm working with from the men's shed that we could establish this, but so my request was that you endorse us exploring the potential of using this shed for a men's shed, and allows us to come back to your next meeting with more concrete proposal. That's point number one. Second project, walkway cycleway over Graham's Creek. As we all know, it's very dangerous for cyclists. I don't know if you've tried walking across here. I did once, but I had to run. The trees used to block the bridge, but thanks to a mysterious person, they disappeared, which is great because everyone was talking about it and no one was doing anything. Yeah. The walkway could easily come along here where the trees are, it wouldn't be hard to form. And it's simply coming across through here. So you would now have connectivity coming along Ocean Beach Road, across the road and back to main town. So my point is that this could be a men's shed project. And more than that, there's money available because NZTA, because the Greens have now got control of some of the processes, they're pushing money towards walkways and cycleways. And it would allow people to safely walk or cycle from Ocean Beach around the town, which will boost tourism, domestic tourism primarily, which is what we need at the moment because the internationals died. And it will also remove potential lethal risks. So I'd just like, again, to see I'm working with Ray Finn, who helped build the Pepe Roads Bridge. I understand the Walk Tairua people have pulled out. They say they're too old and, well, I can't say that. They're not that interested in doing this, but the men's shed formation group seems to be. So we'd like to move forward, again, investigating this and coming back to you. Thirdly is I'm just looking at a tourism working group. A lot of the businesses here may be affected by international tourism. I'm keen on developing our own unique brand for Tairua. So, sorry, Barry, I'm not doing this for Pauanui. first, the thing we need is better signage that points to the beach. People drive into town, they don't even know there's an ocean beach because there's no signage till you get right out the other end of town. There's a tiny little sign. And the second was something that they were talking about the Pool Lua. The Historical Society people know about this, that this has got the oldest Maori artifact ever found in New Zealand was found here. So again, there's things you can develop around that. It was just to look at ways to make the place unique. That's my submission.
Very good. Thank you, Ben. I'm sure there's some questions. I've got a few myself, but anyone got questions?
Yeah, I have. I think the whole concept's pretty good myself, but I heard talk the other day at a meeting from Shed, perhaps. The old gym down at the football club. No good?
I don't know. It's just, it's all worth looking at. It's just, what I do know is that when we tried to get the skate park into that area, it went to the Environment Court and was blocked because of the noise. So the risk is people with routers and chainsaws and saws. You know, this is blokes doing stuff. It's better in an industrial area if we can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'd support that shed out. Looks like a pretty good idea, really.
Oh.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment about it. The one thing with the Red Bridge Road, I mean, I'm all in favour of with the men's shed. I'm not a member of the Pauanui one, but with the Red Bridge Road, you'd have quite a lot of traffic and requirements for parking for that.
There's a lot of parking available inside the gates.
Oh, that's fair.
Can I ask a question, Warwick?
Yeah, go ahead, Em.
Yeah, Ben, firstly, I support the men's shed totally. My husband was one of the first four that started the one over at Pauanui, and we all know that went from strength to strength to strength. Red Bridge Road, I think also too, it has an added advantage going out to the dump the other day. They've got wonderful recycled stuff there that might be available for some of the men's shed as well.
Absolutely.
Good location for them. And I think also talk to a wide range of people, because typical of us at Tairua, there seems to be several groups working on that project. As to tourism, I talked to Nisha. There's a new site up on the Chit Chat thing for business, and it's brilliant.
Good.
Okay. Yep. Just being that shed, that double bay shed where Wayne Price and the council keep their stuff in, there is no power on that.
I don't know. I don't know.
There's no power there.
But is there some on the smart environmental one next door?
Yes, next door. Right. Yes, yeah, and that's leased, so I don't know how we get on there. But go along with Chris's comments about the gym. Yes, I've heard some stories about the gym relocating elsewhere, and that property may come available. Along with, I've also been talking to the hall committee and with Les Sinton, and it may well be that the annex could become available for the men's shed.
Could I say that my wife teaches yoga there, and a lot of you will have an unpleasant, messy death if you go against the woman that used that's very well used, the annex. Yeah.
The reason I understand is that the hall is not being utilised enough, and they're looking at moving these smaller activities into the hall. It's nothing set in concrete. That's all.
I just point out that the reason the ladies love it in there is because it is small and intimate, and it has carpet, and it's warm in winter, and they don't want to be in the hall.
Yeah.
And it's got light.
Okay. Yeah. That's.
Can I just jump in here, Warwick? It's Eileen here.
Oh. Morning.
With the Red Bridge Road proposal, remember Brent Turner brought that up
Yes.
a little while ago.
Right.
And we have already done some investigation works into the hows, whys and wherefore of that site for the Seagull Centre with the community facilities team.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll find out, I'll get a copy of those discussions and I will forward them to you.
Okay.
That's fine, Eileen. Could I get a copy of those as well? Is that appropriate?
Sure. Yeah, I think it was fine, Ben. I can, when I track them out through our magnificent system here, I will forward them on to you.
Well, I'll send through my PowerPoint. I will just remove the comment about the thanking Warwick regarding the trees, but otherwise the document.
It's a good idea.
Yes.
Okay, are there any further
Also,
questions?
the other thing about the annex was I do know that there has been discussions with property and the Tairua Heritage Group about possibly putting the Heritage Centre out there. So
Yes.
that's discussions that have been going on as well.
Because I still think with the Heritage Centre that the Heritage Centre is a real asset to the community, and that my best site would be to just extend on the side of the library, because the library is there already. You've got the space all the way down there. Just be a lean-to off there. You'd have the power, you'd have the water, you'd have half the sites already there. The foundations are already done.
Ben,
yeah.
I think you'd need to talk to the Heritage Group who went and had a meeting over at Thames just prior to lockdown. So yes, they're looking at the hall area.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Ben. I'm going to shake this. We're in a new phase of operations now. Everyone is thinking about rejigging everything. So
Yep.
let's just work away on that. Are there any further questions? If not, then I ask someone to move and second that the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board receives the Ben Dunbar-Smith as a speaker in the public forum.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll do that, Warwick.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favour?
I was just
Sorry,
going to ask Bruce if Bruce had any comments. I see Bruce has arrived.
All right.
No comments from me at this stage. Yeah, good morning, everyone. No, nothing further to add at this stage.
Can I just ask who moved that, please?
Chris. Sorry.
Chris, thank you, Chris.
Chris and Anne, I think, was it?
No,
Gary.
me.
Sorry. Okay. So it brings us to
Thank you.
5.4.
Thank you very much. I will exit at this point and just forward it.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank
If
you.
you could forward that, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
We'll be in touch, my friend.
Thank you. Cheers.
Right.
Warwick, we need to do the items on the agenda first. 1.4.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, 1.4 items not on. Are there any items not on the agenda? If not, we'll move on.
Conflicts of interest.
Oh yeah, 1.5 conflict of interest. I'm sorry, I was looking at this straight after public forum. We were going to move into 5.4 and 5.2, but are there any conflicts of interest?
Not as I'm aware of.
Okay,
Not for me.
right. Well, are we going to 1.6?
All good.
Yes, 1.6. The minutes.
1.6. We need a mover and a seconder that the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board confirms the minutes for the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board meeting held on the 17th of February 2020. Have a
I'll
mover?
move it.
Long time ago.
I'll
Yeah.
move.
Is that Anne?
Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll say,
Who's that? Chris? Thank you,
Chris.
Chris.
yeah, sorry. Yeah.
We're looking at any discussion on those minutes? Must be some.
Yes, I've got a couple of points to raise, if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead, Terry.
Just under, there's a couple of, we had quite a few people presented to that in the public forum, and there was some points of action that came out of that. And I'd just like to ask Nicole or Eileen, are those points gathered? I know some of them are gathered later in the meeting to be discussed. And I'm just looking at things like the Trevor French's discussion concerned the groups gathering in the area during the peak periods, Was that going to be raised or any comments? Because it's been since February, so I'd just like to be able to, gather that information as we go through the meeting to make sure we've covered those points. If you can assure me of that, I'm fine to move on.
Okay, no worries. We'll confirm that.
Okay, if it's going to be discussed later in the meeting, I'm happy to accept the minutes as they are presented.
Through the chair, it's Erin here. Hi everyone. That's a great point. Thanks, Terry. I suggest that we discuss that under the action schedule component of the agenda, if that works for everybody.
I had one comment, and that was there was a comment there about the walkway, the proposed walkway, Tairua Trail from the school to the cemetery. And there has been, I was involved in an initial and an informal discussion with the Hikawai District Trust. We actually had a walkthrough from the school. It was myself and Gavin Morris and the committee. We walked the mud and the bush, and that was about it. Lots of talk, lots of buzz. It all went away, and I haven't heard a thing since. So I just want that noted that there had been some discussion.
Yeah, and if I could just raise a couple that, and I just need Eileen or Nicole to confirm. Kevin, Mr. Costa from Gordon's request around the Holland Close stream. Is that going to be discussed later?
Yeah, I've got a note on that too.
I have actually been in touch with Gary Towler regarding that, and I do have an update that I can pass on.
And Gordon's since rung again. He's rung about 3 times on that over the last month, Nicole.
No, that's fine. I heard from Gary before the meeting, so I'll be able to bring you up to date. We'll just do it as part of the action schedule.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, is there no further discussion? I'll put it to the vote. All in favour, say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. 5.4.
Yep. Can everyone hear me just to check?
Yes.
Yep.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
I'll just move and ask for a move in a second. The Tairua Community Board receives the Tairua Community Escape Facility Options Report dated the 4th of May 2020 and 2 requests that the staff progress development of a detailed design of a community skate facility at Corrie Park with the key users, stakeholders and adjoining residents. Can I have a mover and seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Yeah, that worked, Chris.
So who moved it? Was it you again, Chris?
Chris, it was, yeah.
And Barry?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Right.
Do you want me to walk through it just quickly?
Yes, please.
Yep. Okay. So basically, the report, as you see, it outlines the options for the development of skate facility in Tairua for the board to consider really for its next steps. So the report's been informed by initial consultation with adjoining residents, particularly at Pepe Park or Pepe Reserve, and skate park designers as well. So there's a bit of a high-level analysis, so looking at all of the relevant locations or possible location for a skate park, and then it gets into. Can you hear me? No.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, you're nice and clear to me.
Can you hear me, Anne?
Yes, I can. You're lovely and
Okay.
clear, and I
All
can
right.
see you as well.
Okay. So we looked in more detail with 3 options, 2 at Pepe Reserve and 1 at Corrie Park. The 2 at Pepe Reserve, basically, we chose Pepe because we thought it was a good location close to town. There's a lot of background around this, and we initially tested the concept with the adjoining residents. Now, one thing the board needs to be aware of, the reserve, there's 2 different types of reserves. Koori has a reserve status, which is for formal recreation like rugby fields and skating facilities under the district plan, whereas Pepe Reserve is basically a passive recreation reserve. So any formal skating facility at Pepe would require another step through the planning process and would need all adjoining residents basically to give their written consent for being adversely affected. So those are some fairly kind of I guess major constraints with Pepe. So as we work through that, we looked at one option down towards the harbour frontage, and also another option we looked at pushing it away as far as possible from the residents closer to the toilet, as you can see at option 1 and option 2. And then basically Koori Park Reserve we looked at as well. So pros and cons, all of them. Overall, Pepe Reserve's very constrained in terms of the need for resource consent, very, very close to adjoining residents. In some instances, it's only about sort of 45 metres away from property boundaries. So we would need, or the board would need to go down the route of probably an acoustic assessment and a whole lot of other raft of other requirements under resource consenting for that one. Koori Park has a active zone, so it allows for skating facilities. We have to still look at parking and things like that, but it's a flat area. And we did talk to the rugby club as well on site a couple of weeks ago just to get their take on things. They're very keen on looking at the Koori Ride as a whole sporting hub, and they had some comments about cricket and making sure that whatever development occurred there allowed for cricket nets as well. So that was something that we took on board. So I think it's it's under section 3, the option 3. There's a bit of an overview of the potential development at Koori Park with a skate facility in that Hornsey Road area. So that's a bit of an overview. Their options and analysis are there for you to have a look at, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Right, I'm sure there's a lot. I've got some.
Yeah.
There you go, Chris. I think you're our rep, aren't you?
Yeah, and it was pretty positive, I think, wasn't it, Ross?
Yeah, sorry, you broke up at the start there, Chris. But yeah, when we did meet out on site, it was positive. The rugby club were quite keen. They were very positive about the option of development there, provided that they've got some sort of preference for upgrades of the tennis court as well, and resurfacing the tennis court, which I think the board has got funding for next year anyway. But yeah, overall quite a positive. They like the idea, I guess, of providing some kind of seating area to separate the rugby dead ball line and the park.
Yeah.
Which is an option there.
Sounds good.
The only thing that worries me about that is that vicinity where the exercise, what's the name is, and Ross Galloway, or Pat Galloway across the road, actually went to the nth degree to get it stopped. Now, that's the risk again. I don't understand if it's active reserve. We've done that to get out on us.
Sorry, Chris, again, you're breaking up from my end, but I think there may, it's certainly a risk for the project, and I think in the recommendations, basically it's asking the board for a sort of a direction around which area we need to focus on to that next level. We've got budget next financial year. There's not a lot of money. There will be some costs around design and other things like that. But as far as the planning goes, it doesn't require resource consent. So that is quite a big risk that's been taken away from a cost point of view. We will probably, as you guys know, will get a lot of kickback from joining residents. So that's something we'll have to manage quite carefully.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, initially it's a conversation with everyone adjoining so that people know what's going on. At the end of the day, I guess it's a project that's been around for a long time. It's probably more of this is my take on it, more of an engagement conversation rather than do you want it or not. The budget's there. I think looking at all the other options, there's not really too many other locations in Tairua for it. The zoning's correct, all right. I think initially that the rugby club had some concerns, and the joining residents probably have some concerns about safety and antisocial behaviour. So those things will have to work through with people. But at this stage, I guess it's asking for a direction to go through to that next stage of a bit more development, a bit more conversations.
And
Oh, can I say?
yep.
Yes, I think, you know, Corey looks good. I think, you know, what I don't want to see, because we looked at PT, and we had a plan drawn, and that would have cost money, and we're tight on money now, not just because previous to COVID, but COVID as well. And I'd like to think carefully before we go on. I think Corey's a good option. I think we need to get everybody on board. So that means, you know, the residents from the past, and that needs careful management. You know, so whoever's doing that, we need to do it properly and carefully, I think. The rugby club's fantastic, and I think, you know, it's a real community sport hub for us, because we have cricket summer, we have rugby, we have the exercise yard, you know, that exercise park used by everybody, and our netball and our tennis. So, you know, it's a good community sport hub.
Well, I'd like to throw a spanner in. Is that it, Anne? You got
Yep,
more?
that's all right.
I'd like to throw a spanner in there. I don't know. I have mentioned this before, and that is the estuary, the Pepe estuary side piece of the reserve. Now, I had a look at the 2014 Reserve Management Plan yesterday, and it mentions in the background section that it is a popular destination for families with young children, and the policy section 1 allows for council-approved facilities, and in section 4 of that, there is an approved cycle parking facility with limited vehicle access. Can I ask why we haven't looked at that area?
Yeah, thanks, Warwick. I probably should have put that in the table. We did definitely look at that area, and that's been something the board's been asking about as well. So when you drive into Tairua and you cross the bridge on your left-hand side, that's the area you're talking about, aren't you?
Correct.
Yeah. So that area is the same zoning as Pepe on the other side. So there's a couple of issues with that. One, it's passive recreation and would need, again, to jump through the planning hoops for adjoining residents. When you looked at Pepe Reserve about 2011, there was a suggestion that there was a bowl built on the other side. At that point, the hotel objected quite significantly to it, and I think that hotel's now been broken up into a number of private owners. So we would have the same situation as Pepe Reserve at the moment with this report, where we'd have to go to adjoining residents and ask them for their written consent, you know, to change that relatively untouched area to make it an escape bowl. That's a bit major. I think the other thing as well is there are iwi issues around that area, more kind of up the estuary a little bit further. But and the third one is parking. Fourth one is it's a bit of an untouched site as well. So
yeah,
there's a change in how the character would look, I guess, as well. But I think parking, the consenting, the adjoining neighbours right there, those all factors that really point us away from that area.
Can we get all the ducks in a row before we actually go to the next step, get agreement by people, and get it sorted out, because otherwise we're, rather than wasting money on designs all the time. Yeah, because the design was good too, but the initial sort of concept, but that costs money.
Yeah. So I think the way we've done it here has been fairly prudent in that we've got some really high level designs and quite a comprehensive options report. So
exactly
that what it's doing is it's just pointing out all the issues with most of the sites, and basically if the money, the 163 for the construction, we're in a position that we've got a little bit of money for that design this year left over. We could go out to consult. That wouldn't really be too much of just be staff time cost wise. We can then put that consultation and the concept design into a tender package, basically for a design and build. So just talking to some of the scape construction companies, design and build, they can wrap up the cost of the design, the detailed design and the build together. The concept that was just I sent through this morning, that one there has been priced for a streetscape area that would meet budget with a second stage for a bowl. So I guess, and if the board were comfortable at going with the option as a recommendation, there would be basically an opportunity to go straight into design build, which that would be the final cost of the project for that street area.
And Ross, down the track, there's other places now around that's come out of COVID, like Recreation New Zealand and Sport New Zealand, both are bringing funding on board that we can apply down the track if we've got a project that's, ready to go.
Yeah, yep. And I think that's where the local, like Alison Smith and the local skaters were quite keen on taking the fact that we've got a design that could be split into two. Then you've actually got something tangible to look at raising further funds for.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where it could go. You could build the streetscape first area, then basically get people's interest up. They can see that it works well, and then look at funding for the second stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I say something, Warren?
Yeah, certainly.
I know when there was some work done down at the Pepe, there was quite a lot of historical stuff dug up, and I think in that reserve across the road would be in the same piece of cake, and I think you'd have significant problems with Heritage New Zealand with respect to the battle that was apparently down there. I know I've heard stories from the old guys that there was lots of bones and things dug up when they did the foundation for the Pepe Bridge. So that would all impact on it, I think.
Yes, it would, Chris, because probably something like that, they would be looking at it straight away. There are archaeological reports done by Gumbley, and they're quite extensive for the whole area, and they're very, very good. Warren Gumbley's a good archaeologist.
Yeah, I know one of the old Prescotts telling me one day that they had skulls perched on the fence posts along the road. So there's obviously quite a lot of carnage happened down there. So I think you'd probably battle with that.
Thank you, Chris. I just think I've already had some phone calls from the people living adjacent to this proposal down at the football field, and it's going to be a struggle. I can just see it. It's going to be a struggle, and we're not talking. I mean, we haven't got a lot of money, so.
This thing is what I don't want to happen is have it disappear like it has over the last 15 years.
Exactly. It's needed. We need a skateboard path or bowl for our people.
I actually had a phone call within 10 minutes of getting home after our meeting, Ross.
Oh, yes.
And it was a young fella over there, and I actually said to him, asked him what his concerns was, and I said to him, I thought you'd probably support it. because you're probably not that far away from having your own family. And he sort of changed his attitude a wee bit once I said that, but there's obviously going to be a bit of angst.
Yep, there will be, and I think that's why we need to get in front of people early, and that would be the next step, basically, to work through some of those concerns. The advice that we had around, because people have concerns about lighting and security. At the end of the day, it is an open recreation space that people are living next to. It's zoned for that sort of activity, but we really do need to get people on board early, and just go through some of their concerns, and try to make sure we can address any of them if we can.
Yeah.
It kind of worries me because the status of that reserve hasn't changed, but Gary Towler still pulled out of it when we discussed it last time. So, I mean, if he could have forced it through, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that there's the ability for any kind of legal challenge in any part of this. It depends on whether, how robust we are with our process from here. So I think the next step, for this would be we would go and apply officially for a certificate of compliance through the resource consent arm of council. Yeah. And they would basically look at the activity and say, what are you proposing? Does it meet our requirements? Is it permitted? And then they'd give us an independent commissioner's sort of just a statement basically saying, yes, it's a permitted activity. That would be one of the steps we'd need to take. You could still get a challenge through the local government acts that we haven't maybe followed due process that way, or people haven't been advised about what's happening. We've had the similar situation in Wangmata around the boardwalk, and we had some independent legal advice saying we were very much on solid ground if we've followed our process through the LTP, which we have. So they basically, we've got an item in the LTP. It's been out to consultation. People have had the chance to comment on it, and then it's gone through a due process to agree a funding for the skate park. So it's then up to now the detail. So the principle of the project has been agreed to by the community. It's just where is it going to go and what is it going to look like. So you will get some kickback. It's just making sure we manage that and keeping you guys informed around if there are any additional costs through these sort of legal challenges that you might get.
Okay. Sorry.
The other thing we can do too is ask that skate community to do some of the fundraising themselves.
They've already done some of that, I understand. I understand that there's good support from some of the people that are keen skateboarders. And I think I've said it before, it's like, businesses that might put money in as well. And that's important. But I think, the key thing also is to get those residents that are a bit touchy, get them on board as well. And that's always the important thing, I reckon, right from the beginning. Otherwise, you just end up with, stalemate at the end.
It's got to be the first step, I guess, Ross, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly after this, I mean, it's probably going to be a letter drop to everyone and following up phone calls. I mean, I guess for you guys from a board perspective, I think you have to be quite clear that we're not asking people whether or not they want a skate facility, because you will go back to that stalemate again. It's couching it in a way that, hey, look, this is a proposal that's going to happen in this area. How would you guys like that to happen, and what could we do to mitigate any potential effects if there are any? I think that's got to be quite clear.
And I think also having the rugby board, rugby club in there as well, they can promote that forward as well too. They've already put lights in.
Yep.
And the attitudes that it might be unsafe is an attitude. I think the key thing also too is that it's now an Olympic sport. That sounds silly, but we need to promote it properly with those positive things. And it's a good outdoor activity, especially after, with COVID happening. People were wandering around the streets with their skateboards.
I've got a question for you, Ross, if that's okay, through the chair.
Yes, Terry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, thanks for all your work so far, Roscoe. And it looks like you've moved away from Pepe Reserve.
Yes. Yes.
Does that mean that now that is the toilets being held up for this, or can they proceed?
No, they can carry on regardless. It's probably a little bit easier, to be honest.
And there was discussion around the car parking there doing some beautifying or changing. Is that going to change, or is it just going to be the toilets now and leave it as it is?
Just the toilets and the frontage there, and we won't be touching the rest of the reserve. What we were looking at was more of a master plan to see how the skate facility would fit with the rest of the park, because there's lots of different users. So we're looking at that as a wider thing. But now that we're recommending Corey, we can just the toilets can carry on doing their own thing, and the PP Reserve will stay as it is at this stage.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Okay, there are no further questions. I'll put that to a vote that we. Where the hell were we?
Carry on.
We're going to approve that the staff carry on with the negotiations.
Yeah, I think we've moved and seconded. I think we just need a yes or a no. And I think
we'll put to a vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Carried. Now, I understand at this point we're going to ask Derek to present the recreation plan item. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. We have Kate Cresswell and Bill Cooksley in the meeting to co-present with Derek. However, I cannot see Derek on here, so I'll just send him a
I am here.
Oh, you're here. Hi, Derek. Sorry, I didn't see
somewhere.
you join the meeting.
So this is the District Council Sport and Active Recreation Plan report, correct?
That's correct. So good morning. Basically, it's a very lengthy report, so I'm going to take it as read, but in synopsis, it's a report that's quite important for this district. Sport Waikato, I've got two colleagues here virtually with me. Bill Cooksley, who's the Thames-Coromandel District Coordinator, and Kate Creswell, Planning and Insights Advisor from Sport Waikato. Now, both of these people were basically drove this plan in terms of consulting with the community on behalf of TCDC and Sport Waikato. They've gone out and taken a snapshot of sport and recreation around the district. The plan aligns with a greater plan, which is the Sport Waikato facilities plan. Apologies, that's not quite the right name, but anyway, that is basically a region-wide plan. So this plan fits underneath that, and it also aligns with other plans that have been created around the region by other local authorities. So Hauraki has one, for instance, Maramara Piako, etc., etc. So this is a snapshot of recreation. What are people doing throughout the district? What are their age groups? And also connecting with clubs that have never connected with council before as well. So it gives us a real idea as to what's actually important for our people, how active they actually are, and where that fits regionally as well as nationally. And talking to the communities, talking to the groups, the sports clubs, also gives us an idea as to how well they're placed in terms of whether they're connecting with other clubs, whether they're connecting with regional sports organisations or at the national level, etc. So that's a rough synopsis. We're presenting this to you in a draft format, and we're taking it to the other boards as well. So this is the first paper to a board, and then after that, if you agree, endorse it, then we'll take it to council for approval.
Yeah, well, my first comment up on that is it's a very comprehensive plan report. Obviously, it needs a lot of digestion before anyone's going to come back with a comment. But I guess our committee will Have you looked at it?
Yep.
Has my board looked at this at any great depth?
Yes, I have. And I've also, like, there's been people talking about it on Recreation New Zealand - Sport New Zealand webinars.
Yeah. The bit that sort of worries me is that what does it mean for the future? Does it mean some of these clubs are going to battle to change or to remain independent, or is it not bureaucracy getting in and putting a big thumb on things? That's all I'd worry about, I think.
Yep.
I only skimmed through it, to be fair. I did notice the Tairua Bowling Club's not on it, so that was one little thing. But it looks like, where you're talking about funding for clubs in the future and causing things to clubs to join together, that may not suit a lot of things. That's all I'd comment on, I think.
Through the chair, so there was a very wide-ranging campaign to try and get clubs involved. So I can't comment specifically about individuals, but I believe that every club that was available on our records and through networking with the regional sports organisations, etc., was contacted. So there were a number that weren't or didn't respond. I think we had a response rate of in the high 70s. In terms of, it does talk about hubbing, so where you've got clubs with declining resources and declining membership, it does talk about, well, is there a possibility of connecting whereby several clubs might occupy the same premises? And also a further comment is that by being in a plan like this and aligning with the outcomes in the plan, it opens the door for potentially for funding for these clubs to actually go out and seek external funding. Now, I know the COVID situation has changed that immensely in terms of what the funding network is like out there. But if you're aligning with a district sports plan, then any funder will identify that that is a really good person to back, or a really good club or recreational activity to back, because it's aligning with an identified and an endorsed plan.
And that was the feeling I got being at the Recreation - Sports New Zealand webinars, that, that's helped get the funding. One thing I would say in the thing, the word monitor, is there another word you could use for that? Because that monitor sounds like there's somebody, in charge at the top and they're going to monitor it.
Okay. I might ask for a comment there from my Sport Waikato colleagues, and I think Bill's first in line, because in terms of my understanding is that the terminology that is being used in these plans is consistent with the terminology used in other plans. So Bill, do you have a comment about that?
Yeah, thanks very much, Derek. And a great question. I guess when it comes to monitoring, that's our role from Sport Waikato's perspective is to support. It could potentially be a better word to use, is to ensure that things remain on track, and if there are any sticky situations that do arise, that we can use a lot of our networks and our relationships that we currently have region-wide as well to potentially overcome some of those issues.
Yeah, I think that would be a nicer word to use. It's sort of more of a partnership thing rather than a sort of big brother in charge.
So just tell me, are you looking for the community board to do some communication with clubs locally, or are you going to push this? What's the next moves?
Well, the communication has been done already with the clubs.
Yes. Yeah.
So the next move is ideally for the board to endorse this so that we can take it to the council to endorse it, and then we can utilise the LTP. We can slipstream into the LTP round. So the timing of this is actually quite good, because theoretically, again, if we've got a burning desire from a community such as a skate park in Tairua, for instance, then we're aligning it, we're putting it into a strategic document as well as then slipping it into the LTP process. So that's where we're getting to now. So in terms of the consultation, we've done the consultation around the district and in your ward in terms of what's happening and what's required out there.
Yep. Okay. Did you have a reasonably good feedback from those clubs that did?
Again, Bill and Kate were actually on the consultation evening. So one of our staff members from TCDC who's been driving it has unfortunately resigned. So I was not at any of those consultation events. So Bill, maybe you've got a comment on that as well, please.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. The consultation evenings were reasonably well attended with a cross-section of the clubs. And in particular, the Tairua one, we did have good representation from the rugby club, as in Derek Rope, and he was one of the key drivers, and he is very keen. And I've just been listening into the skate park discussion as well. It's very keen in terms of creating that full community sport hub, which is certainly a direction that Sport New Zealand, and it's identified in this plan as well, as a potential project and support from us around that. So we had a great response right across, 76% response rate right across the district with regards to the survey responses, and then the consultation evenings, we had a fair bit of feedback along those lines as well.
Very good.
It can help clubs too, that community hub, like it helps their costs a great deal, which is a positive move given the future.
Absolutely, and as we are potentially aware that, you know, volunteer base may subside post COVID-19, and it was prior anyway. So when you get a hub that, or groups that are willing to work together, then, you know, that's sharing resources and can actually become more efficient along the lines.
Exactly.
Very good. Is there any further?
Yes, I wouldn't mind to have.
Yes, Terry, go ahead.
Yeah, Derek, Bill. Is it Leslie or Kate who's there? So I didn't remember the other person.
Kate.
Kate, yeah. Well, thank you very much, and thanks, Derek, for laying out the very comprehensive plan. Very comprehensive, I have to say. Bit of reading. I did note a couple of things. First, if I can just go through a couple of points, and you can just random off the answers. I'm sure you've got them. I notice in the background, which is at the very start of the report, that it says that the 30th October 2008 meeting, the Development Contribution Subcommittee of Council and Audit and Risk Committees received a report. The development contributions, which I'm a member of, didn't get that information as that meeting or that group was disbanded when Scott Summerfield went overseas. So are you requesting that they should review this as a separate committee or as part of the Audit and Risk Committee?
Question. Sorry, Terry, which page was that actually on? It's in the executive summary.
In the page, I'll see page 23, one background, starting with that right at the first, that Leslie's put together.
Sorry, Leslie's put together.
Leslie Villas, something, principal. Page 23 is what I've got in my.
I think we might be actually
on the wrong report.
On the wrong report. Sorry, Terry.
Oh, sorry, we're in the wrong one.
Weird.
So this is the sport and active recreation plan, and Leslie's up as well. It is confusing, but she's got the open space.
Open space. Sorry, I was a bit confused there. Sorry. So what page are you on? Just to get me right in the right picture.
Well, ideally, we're actually at the suggested resolution stage.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but which page are you on for the
21, page 21, Terry.
21?
I think it is, yeah. No,
I've got 70. Oh,
yeah, sorry, I'm looking at the highlighted screen that Nicole's just put up.
Yeah.
And 78, I think.
Okay.
yes, it's 78. The actual report is page 78.
78. Ah, yeah, I thought so. I went just scrolling down, writing things there. It's page 78.
Yes, I think so. Yes, it says page 78 there.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry for that. I just
okay.
writing some stuff down, trying to pick up information.
This virtual stuff's new to us all, Terry. Don't worry.
I'm just finding it here. Coming down.
78. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. No, I just had a couple of questions about this. I thought it was very, very comprehensive. I just see the highlighted pieces I'm trying to go through here. So I got a report from just a few people say that they felt just like Chris said that their sport event or like a trail wasn't included. Can they be included into the plan before it's adopted?
Well, we've got a draft plan here. So if a plan is better, the more information that comes forward. So if we've got, as Bill said, we had 76% hit rate, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. If we've got outliers out there, for instance, a club was missed, wasn't connected with, then we need to see that, but we need to see it very quickly if we're going to hit these timeframes. There is potential opportunity to get in there. Hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn there, Bill. No. But the ideal would be the more information we've got, then the better it is.
Yeah, because I think included in the plan gives them some status or some connection where the council's going and where their sporting activity fits into it, especially around walkways and things like that, which I see as really important to be in there.
Yep, correct. And like I said earlier, if a club is seeking funding, to be endorsed by a district sport plan allows it's a really strong signal of endorsement. So if they're going to NZ Community Trust or sport, whatever it is, then they can help. That's having something like that behind them is a huge help. So we're not expecting that everybody in this plan will be holding their hands out to council. The intention is also to help them hold their hands out to others if need be. Okay.
Yes,
and I think that's important because there's been a number of clubs right throughout this valley and Whangamata that have actually made connections with regional level as well too. I think it's really important, that you convey the proper message too, that they can join that, the benefits of helping rather than just, coming down from council, this is what we've planned.
Yep.
So to do that, Derek, they got to get them through to you or who?
Probably to Bill direct, Bill or Kate, Sport Waikato direct. If what I'll do is Nicole's actually got their email addresses, so perhaps if Nicole dispenses that to the board, and then
Bill's, but if you get the
information in place, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
No
worries. Okay. It's certainly very comprehensive, and I just wondered if people are fully on board with it. But it's been a lot of work done, so thank you for that.
Yep.
Thank you.
My sentiments exactly, Terry. Well, thank you, Derek and Kate and Bill.
Thank you.
I'm sure this will be. Well, I hope it works and we get some consolidation around the peninsula. I know there are clubs that are struggling. Looking at that particular page 77, 78, 10 members here and 12 or a dozen or whatever somewhere else, it's not viable, is it? And it would certainly help the communities if we could have some shared facilities. Yes. However, if there's no further questions, I'll put the resolution that the Thames-Coromandel District that the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board receives the Thames-Coromandel District Council Sport and Active Recreation Plan report dated 5th of February 2020. And 2, request the council adopt the Thames-Coromandel District Council Sport and Active Recreation Plan. Can we have a mover and seconder, please?
I'll second it.
Can we have a mover? I'll move myself. Warwick.
Warwick.
Yep.
I was muted.
You were muted.
I was muted.
All those in favour?
Aye.
And against? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Right.
Could we have those email addresses, Nicole, when you get them?
Yeah, no worries. If you have a look in the chat too, Bill's just actually put a comment or his email in there. So, but I can email it about, no worries.
Okay.
Chat. Right, moving along. The community management.
That's it.
Item 2.1, that the the resolution is that the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board receives the report, Prescott's Garage Public Toilet Report dated 24th of March of 2020. 2, that we deny the request from Prescott's Garage Limited for funding of septic tank emptying and refer the company to the operating conditions of their resource consent. Can we have a mover and seconder, please?
Yep. Are we going to discuss this or?
Yes. Just
Yep.
Move it for open discussion.
Yep.
Yep.
Is that Chris and
yes.
Barry?
Yep.
Barry?
Right.
Thank
Open
you.
for discussion.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to say a few things. I don't support this recommendation from council. I think Prescott Garage do provide a service that's not around the area, and they talk about people driving to Pauanui and or people don't always go to Pauanui to go to the toilet, come back onto the main road to go to Whitianga or whatever, or Tairua at middle of night and all those things. So I think this is a community service. The council could build some toilets there and fix the problem, but I think the cost would be prohibitive in the current climate. I don't think he's asking for more than just his share of support. And we're still going to have people, we got 80%, was it 85% non-resident ratepayers coming to Pauanui, and I don't know, 50 or 60 to Tairua, and a lot more to Whitianga. So there's still going to be a lot of passing traffic. And I think you should just think about this.
I actually support Terry's comments on that. It's an extremely well-used toilet. I looked at the report which said about the Pauanui Cycleway, saying they weren't going to do a toilet because they could use Prescott's. We've got, it's the only toilet till you hit Tairua from Kopu, and even Kopu's not very well known about.
Correct.
Mm.
Yeah, I sort of look at, I know a little bit about septic tanks, and I sort of wonder why they're pumping it out 3 or 4 times a year.
So it doesn't go into the river.
Well,
Yeah, maybe it overflows to the river.
Yeah, maybe the system's not been designed to cater for that load.
Right, it's not designed to cater for that road.
That load, yeah,
that load or that road, yeah, both of them.
Yeah.
So,
but it was so. If I don't know what the story is about building Warrant of Fitnesses and things, but my thoughts would be if it's doing that, it's not qualifying.
well, it's built for the garage and its users, and it's just overwhelmed by the traffic and the growing population using it, and obviously the tourist population plus the non-resident ratepayers. So it's become bigger than Moses in terms of use.
Bigger than Ben-Hur.
Yeah, that whole area has sort of become more exposed because of higher numbers. I think, some of the reports that I've seen that are about 2012, they're actually out of date because the whole area's changed.
And he locked it a few times because it was just getting out of control. Well, you know what people do? They defecate all around it and all over the show. It was disgusting when I went out to look at it.
Yeah.
So people just know it's the place to get to, and then when they charge over the hill, that's what they head for.
Yeah.
Some fill up with gas, but most of them use the toilet.
And most people expect service stations to have a toilet anywhere in New Zealand.
So I'd like to support somebody who wants to move that we actually pay this $1,200 out of a discretionary fund. We've got $20,000 discretionary fund to use, and if the support's there.
Is that $1,200? Is that the cost for what he's asking for?
$1,200. He cleans it out at least 3 times a year over the busy season, and this $1,200 is to pay for one of those 3 complete suction trucks to come and clean it out and take it away.
Could I, Chris? I ask you? Next time you're around there, could you have a look at the system?
Yeah, I could.
I agree with you. I don't quite understand. I mean, obviously, we're going to have a downturn on traffic coming through for the next 2 or 3 years, aren't we?
Maybe not, because we've also got a lot of batch owners coming through too. By the time
I don't think it's the batch owners that are abusing this place. I just think it's the volume. It's
now they've got the cheapest gas in the area, so they're getting an awful lot of people stopping.
And that's locals. That's locals as well as tourists, but mainly locals. People drive from Whangamata over the hill to get petrol at the garage, and they'll go to the toilet there while they're there at the same time. So it is as much locals as it is tourism.
And that garage always has provided a service. I remember right away back in 2000, it was the only place where you could get petrol after hours when, if you were almost run out. So
and I don't think he's asking for a lot. He's just asking for a helping hand. He's not saying pay the bill. He's saying pay 1/3 of the bill that they try and handle it and keep the service open for people, so we don't get pressure to build another toilets, which will cost, as you know, a lot more than $1,200.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it's not a lot of money.
No.
It's not.
Is it?
No,
Okay.
it's not.
So I will move that, if you like, that we fund the $1,200 out of the discretionary fund for Prescott's Garage.
And I'll second it.
Oh, all right. No, I was going to second that, but still go.
Okay. In previously, the last year, the board said that it was a one-off payment. You weren't going to pay it again. So do you want to change this resolution to say either one-off, or do you want to continue it? How do you want that to work?
I think we'd like to continue it for the next 3 years and then review it.
Yep.
Yep. Good one.
I've just asked Chris to have a look at the system that they have got, whether it's a home built, which it could well be, and not.
Any help that he would welcome. If you could go that and do Chris and have a chat to him, I'm sure he would welcome any help to make it better.
I'll stop a lot.
I don't know what costs, but anyway, you can look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, I did talk to Heather Prescott over the weekend, and she said, the best option they've got is to lock it.
Yeah.
And because the business is split apart, that the garage, the mechanical is separate from the front now. The disposing of the petrol is totally separate. So when they lock that facility at night, they should lock the toilet block.
Yeah, but that didn't work. People don't know that. When they go to a garage, they expect a toilet. And they don't know it's 2 companies operating there. And if they lock the toilet, and I went and saw Bill and had a look around there, they just do the business there. They don't even think about it. So we're not helping the situation by locking the toilet. This way we can say to them, keep it open and keep it clean.
Comment that the resource consent condition is that they must have the public toilets open 24 hours a day. So unless approved by the board. So can I suggest the board might want to just include in their resolution to enable the public toilets to be open 24/7, just to reiterate that that is still your understanding as per the resource consent, that you haven't agreed to reduce the hours?
That would be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have a motion here. Can I put that to the vote as it is?
Can you just confirm for me that that sounds okay? That $1,200 be funded from the discretionary fund to Prescott's Garage for funding of the septic tank emptying to be reviewed, is it after 3 years?
Yep.
So Nicole, you probably need to make it clear that the board want to pay the money to Prescott's every year for the 3 years and then have another look at it after the 3 years. I don't know, wording to that effect.
Funded.
And
I think if we could just put it, the funding to support the emptying of it, because it's not doing the whole job. It's just doing it's a part funding. It's not a full septic tank. You know, he spends a lot more money on that emptying the tank. I think if it's just it's not to do the funding for the septic tank emptying. It's to partially fund or to support the funding or support the emptying of it.
Very
support the wording.
the 12.
In which case, I'm just wondering if the discretionary grant is the right place to be going to be taking it out of, if you're going to do it annually for 3 years. I'm wondering if you should actually pay this one out of your discretionary and then an annual payment out of the community contract services budget, which you have at, think off the top of my head at this moment, 3,600 in there.
Through the chair, I would agree with Eileen on that. I would suggest discretionary this year and then the following years.
Yep, that's fine. That's good.
Yep.
Okay.
Getting it right is important. So
Back to the top.
And I think review the whole situation during that 3 years too. There might be another solution.
towards is not right.
So to be funded from the 20.
I'll have a yarn with Bill and
that's good.
Towards septic tank
3 years he
emptying,
might possibly have rebuilt the
and
system.
then to be paid annually from the contract community services budget.
To be paid annually from the contract
Community services budget. And for it to be reviewed after 3 years.
Right. Has everybody read that?
Yes.
Everybody happy with? Can I put it to the vote? All those in favour?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
It still doesn't quite read right,
No, it doesn't. No.
Nicole, but we can, I mean, that's the gist of it. We can fix it up afterwards, the complete wording of it, but it doesn't quite read right now.
Will
Yeah,
that appear?
what it's about, I mean.
Yeah, will that appear automatically in 3 years? Will it? Like it'll definitely come up for discussion again.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I think looking at it with others during the time, I think it's good that Chris is going out to.
Yeah, he might be able to help them down the track somehow.
And I think, look at the whole situation.
Are you happy for us to just play around with that resolution as long as we've got all those points? We can make it sound a bit better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's Ariana.
Are you happy? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I put it to the vote? Now.
You did.
Yes.
You're done.
It's carried.
There was just one other thing that I've noticed, that there is a future development of a picnic facility at the junctions of the Hikawai and Tairua River.
That's right.
Well, have toilet facilities provided, but that's in the future.
Yeah.
So that's something, who knows? Well, I guess we'll jump that one when we come to it. Okay, moving on to 2.2, the Tairua-Pauanui work program. The suggested resolution is that the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board receives, or 2019-2020 work program dated 30th of April 2020. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? We can discuss it. 2.2.
2.2, page 14.
That's those that have got the ability or the facility to look at it without looking at it.
I'm happy to move that way, Warwick.
Pardon?
I'm happy to move that way.
Yeah, move Terry. Second up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's going to speak to it?
You can fire off first if you like.
Well, I'd just like to just get somebody to comment on the not achieved areas in the areas of concern. Has anybody got some comment on that? Like Billy Point, I see there's some.
Sure, they have. Sure.
So I can, Bruce here, I can answer any questions or do my best, and Derek's on the line as well. So between Derek and I, we can probably provide answers to most of the questions, I'd hope.
Okay, so is that project finished?
Billy Point?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, there's just a couple of tidy up things to be done, but as you can see, the budget's spent. So there's just one or two little things to be done, as I understand it, but effectively it's complete.
Can you give me an idea what those one or two little things are, Bruce?
I don't have those off the top of my head, sorry, Terry, but I can find out and come back to you. I can send something.
Well, I'm getting comment from those over that side saying, is it finished or isn't it finished? And it would be good if we could just say, this is still to be done, or it's all over, but forget about it.
Okay. Rather than me guessing, I'll find out the details of what's still to be done, and then I'll flick that out.
They've got to put the last link in, haven't they, on the connecting onto the the boardwalk, so to speak.
I'll find out.
Sure,
My understanding is there's still a couple $100,000 to do.
I'll confirm. Yeah, I don't have the details off the top of my head.
They've got pile driving. They've got all sorts of things to do.
And Bruce, there's a lot of sand build-up, coming out from the jetty and out in that bar. Like the storm last week has shown quite a bit of change to the sand, currents and everything.
If I could make a comment on that, I was there just the other day and I was absolutely staggered how much the sand had built up around there and the entrance by the bar there.
Yeah, that's lots.
How on earth boats get in and out, I don't know. It's
Bruce, a bit concerned about Chris's comment about $200,000 still to spend, because we're 1,700,000 and we're $1 million over budget on this. We know it, and I understand why. But are you aware of this kind of extra work required?
Not off the top of my head, Terry. Like I say, I need to confirm that with the team. So I'll do that and I'll come back to you.
That's a worry.
I am quite staggered here at looking at the $666,000 over budget. This is quite horrendous.
Yeah.
Going back to the original, when this project was first up for discussion and America's Cup was going to cause a problem with contractors. This is a huge amount of money. I don't know how our public, I guess are aware of it, but man, they must be very upset. And with the possibility of another couple of 100,000, it's quite staggering. Looking at
it is in hindsight. Yeah.
Oh, it's
deferred the project, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. But the decisions were made, we moved forward, the bills to pay, and we have to suck it up, unfortunately.
I know when we did the Tairua Wharf, there was no room for movement.
No,
it was
not at all.
Time and under budget.
I mean, we cut the bloody thing back because to get it in the budget.
And we cut back the Ocean Beach stormwater last meeting because of the overrun and costs. So,
Yeah,
so
I don't think
it's
it's
my
council's fault entirely here, because if you look at the main contractor here, it was a contractor who pulled out after giving I don't know if it was a quote, but an estimate for doing the piling, and then the whole thing just went to jelly because there was the other operators around to do it. Was that right, Bruce?
Yeah, that's pretty much it, Terry. Market rates have moved substantially as well. The other comment I'd make is that some projects you can cut back to keep them within budget, and other ones you can't, and it's effectively you either do the project or you don't. So I think, it's unfortunate that the costs have been a lot more than what was initially estimated based on those estimates provided by the first contractor, as Terry mentions. But I think as per the reports that have come back to the board and through council, over the last couple of years while this project's been done, have captured all that information, and it's definitely not ideal. It's not what we are looking for, but you get caught in this position about, like I say, some projects can't be actually cut back, whereas other ones can, and you can do that and keep them within the budget. So yeah, it's an unfortunate situation, but it is what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I remember trying to get it deferred because of the America's Cup.
I do remember that too, Warwick. Yep, and you should have stuck to your guns.
I should have. Yes, it's now we've got to live with it. But
yeah. So can I go to the next one? Pleasant Point boat ramp.
Yes.
So this was chucked up as a project because Roybilly Point wasn't operating, but it was quite a well-used operation down at Pleasant Point. Bruce, can you say it looks like this project is ready to go? Is that right?
Yeah, I believe the stuff's done on that one. I'm just having a quick look. Again, there was some stuff with Heritage New Zealand, which not to go back into the Roybilly Point that we just mentioned, but obviously those issues can throw a bit of a spanner in the works and cause substantial delays and costs and changes to scope, which is what did happen a little bit with Roybilly Point. But basically, everything's kind of on track with that Pleasant Point boat ramp.
Okay. Any comments? I'm happy.
Yeah. So Ross, I've got a question. So we'll also apply for extra money via a loan to pay for the alterations. Would that be correct?
Bruce, you're talking about Anne, not Ross.
Oh, sorry, Ross.
Looks like Ross is gone. Sorry.
No, sorry, Bruce.
No problem. Yeah, I don't have all the details. I thought Ross was still on the line, so apologies.
Yeah.
I don't have all those details on hand.
Yeah. No, I just wondered about it because, we have got a tight budget.
Yeah, we do. And again, it's all around resource consents, so
yeah.
We've kind of put the Heritage New Zealand stuff to bed, and we're fine with that, but it's around resource consenting and stuff. So yeah, and I haven't heard that we've actually got that through yet, but again, I'm happy to confirm that.
Yeah.
That level of detail.
I not a boater by any means now. I've done a boat for many years, but I don't understand what work you actually want to do and why you want to do anything down at Pleasant Point. Especially given the circumstances of this, all the money what we're going to be pushing for these days.
Yep, so definitely there's options, there's always options for the community board and council to make decisions on whether they forge ahead on a project or not. I believe it was around capacity during the peak period, so I've heard the stories and the information come back that ramp is well used during the summer.
Yes,
it causes quite a lot of congestion due to the narrow nature of the ramp, but again, I don't have all the detail and I don't have any first-hand knowledge of it, obviously.
There's also a lot of jet skis that come in and out there too, and it is extremely well used because a lot of people don't like taking their boats out from the jetty because of currents and the bar, and they feel safer, launching their boats back further.
Yes, I did hear the jet skis. It's very popular, the jet skis, that ramp.
Yeah, it is.
So it's on budget?
I'll confirm that. Yeah, I don't have the details on hand. Sorry, Warwick.
That's the frightening thing. I'm just worried about the budget.
Well, that's why I was asking, does that mean we go for a loan to pay for this extra doing up?
So I think this is one of those projects that, based on financial constraints, you get to a position where you can make a call whether you go ahead or not. It's a bit different to the Roybilly Point one. So we can make those decisions. The board can make those decisions about whether they hold off on it and pull back based on financial constraints. If we're not going to be able to get it in with the budget that we have.
I'd agree with Bruce there totally. That this is a budgeted item. It's already gone into the rates, but if it's costing more, we should review it and think about where it should go. So I agree totally.
Yeah.
We actually discussed it last meeting.
We did, And we said the same. We said that the first part, yes, but the extra 66,000 we might just hold off on. And I think Warren Price answered the question. He said, yes, we could do that. I'm sorry I'm so snickety about costs, but we really do need to think about it.
Yeah, totally. And I think you're right. We did say let's get through the first stage, and then we've got it sitting there, and then on the shelf, decisions can be made about when we push the button on anything, or if we hold off. And
I think you said that before too, Bruce, and that was good advice.
Yeah.
So Bruce, if I moved on to the reserve car parks reseals, does this attract the 50% subsidy?
I don't believe so, no. Apart from a couple of them, which might be little sections of road, because it's always a bit, sometimes they're on road reserve and sometimes they're on reserve land. But I'd say the majority of the stuff is on reserve land. Derek might be able to comment further. I don't know.
Yeah, you're correct. It's all reserve land.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Thanks, Derek.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question about the waterways playground? I've been rung up about by the residents alongside that upgrade or replacement. There's a sort of a skate path up the side of the hill, and they were not aware of. They were aware that the replacement was going to happen, but it seems to have been extended. I mean, is this all sort of under the budget? It's not like for like replacement. There's additional things being provided. Is that how it's done? Is that normal?
I think what Warwick's asking, Bruce, is this depreciation or is this, what is it?
It would be
depreciation?
Yeah, if it's a renewal, then it will be from depreciation. If it's a replacement or renewal, now obviously what happens is that standards change over time, play equipment changes. But if you're taking out an existing playground, and again, Derek might jump in once I've spoken. If you're taking an existing playground out, which has come to the end of its useful life, and replacing it with another playground, even if the kit on site is not the same, you're renewing that playground effectively. So it is a replacement or renewal. But if I've totally stuffed that up, Derek, you just let me know.
No, you're fine. It's good.
So it's all.
So the $105,000 should be depreciation money that's in council to use to replace this equipment. That's how it works, isn't it?
Yes, it'd be from depreciation reserves. Yeah.
So we're not looking for any new loans here, Anne. We're just saying this money should be.
Yeah.
I say should be in the council's retained earnings or somewhere to do this project, and it's part of the process of depreciation that everybody pays for it until it comes to renewal, and then the money's there to replace it.
And I'd totally support that concept because, yes, we're granted that, I think, during Bob Renton's time, and I think it's important we don't spend that depreciation on something else. I hope the money is there for it.
So, Derek, the question to us would be, is there a loan to be taken out on this, or is it depreciation money that is available?
It's already budgeted for in the LTP, so it's all there. It's all part of the depreciation reserves or whatever it's called. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the only comment I'd make, Terry, is that so while it's depreciation reserves, obviously depreciation's only been collected since the mid-90s. So for some projects, probably not this one because it's fairly modest in value. For some projects, there won't be adequate money sitting in those depreciation reserves, because we've only been collecting the reserves for kind of 25 years. And if an asset's a 50-year life, you won't have depreciated enough. So what does happen sometimes is those depreciation reserves, the amount that has built up, is used to fund a bigger loan if it's a very expensive asset like a wastewater plant or something. Obviously, we wouldn't have that money accumulated in the 25 years, but that's the process. Is it's all related and wrapped up in those depreciation reserves. And going back to Anne's comment, is those reserves are just used for renewing and replacing assets, not for building, extensions or different levels of service. So they're just tied to replacements and renewals.
Yeah, I understand totally what you're saying there. A little also that the history showing that those reserves were used for other things back in the 2016s and 15s and 14s.
Yep.
And they were run down a bit. So I was just making sure that there was some money there. For this is a small project, and it will have a life and been available for that project.
Yeah, that's correct. I think, as you say, that previously council did use those reserves for loaning and funding different assets other than renewals and replacements. But that change was made a few years ago, and yes, those depreciation reserves are just for renewals.
Yeah.
My question originally was about the consultation. I note that you consult with the 2 schools, but you do not consult with people living alongside these things. Is that the normal way you do things, or?
Derek, you have to comment on that.
Yeah, can I comment on that? So all of the neighbours were contacted, and I believe that there was no response from any of the neighbours.
Okay, it's well, they've come to me instead of going to you, so perhaps I should in future refer them straight to you.
So they're all sent letters, and I believe there was at least one follow-up phone call. So there was a response and from the letter drop. So that gives an indication that the letters were received. Like we for instance, we did Given Grove, and we dropped, I can't remember that, there's something like 70 odd letters for Given Grove, and we got 2 responses from that. We got absolutely nothing for it. Whereas this one was a much smaller, tighter consultation. And again, it's quite often when you do letter drops and consult, you actually don't get anything back, or very little back. But I can confirm that these people were contacted by the project manager for that role.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's all I need to know. That's just like submissions. Yeah, there's a lot of talk, but not in the right place. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I move on to the Pepe Reserve ablution, the replacement? Now I note that we're going to get a has-built off-site place there. Is that correct?
Ross is the project manager for that, but yes, I believe that possibly the company, in fact, both the companies that would have tended for that, or they construct off-site and then plonk it in, and then do all of the finishing work once it's on site.
It's quite that it amazes me actually, because your staff has produced a lovely concept plan, what could go there. That's obviously been tossed in that bin. Do we know what we're getting? Because I know that people here in Tairua are pretty concerned about what's going to go up there.
I'm sorry, I'm not with you, Warwick. What do you mean tossed in the bin?
Well, the original concept drawing we got, is that what is going to be, are we going to be provided with that, or is this something totally different?
I believe it's fairly similar. I'm just reading the comments there. It says building consent has been issued, and so I'm imagining that the building consent was fairly similar to what the plan or concept that you were shown was.
Well, we've heard absolutely squiddly did since. So
I'm pretty sure Ross brought something to the last community board meeting.
He did.
With the concepts on there, and I kind of can't quite remember because I've seen too many plans lately, so my brain's a bit muddled with all the plans and concepts I've seen. But I'm sure he had a concept that he brought to the community board.
Yeah, we had a concept, but that was, I understood, was to be built on site.
No, I think what that is they build the units off site, and then they're brought to site, and then they're all kind of put together, and then the finishing, the roofing and all that kind of stuff goes on after they've been brought onto site. That could be where the confusion's coming in, possibly.
Okay.
Ross, that's quite a good concept, isn't it? I've seen them working elsewhere and doing it quickly, and it only takes 2 or 3 days for them to get it up and running.
It will take slightly longer than that, but yeah, the majority of the outfitting, so the actual toilet components, they're built on the pods and brought in from the factory, and as Bruce has said, the hookups, the landscaping, the pathways around it, the roofs, etc., are all constructed on site.
Yeah, but the actual building is quickly erected.
Yes, it is much quicker, you're correct, but it will be slightly more, 2 or 3 days though.
Yeah.
Can I just have a comment here? I'm just surprised Ross isn't actually in on this because it is quite an important one and big numbers. But I just noticed that this is a 6-pan toilet reverting to an 8-pan toilet with a urinal in it. All the underground services, I understand, are there. I just wonder why we're having a archaeology assessment survey on something that we're not going to go underground for. Can you explain that?
It would be around the fact that the building footprint is not exactly the same. So if you're expanding the footprint, then you would be turning new areas of land, and so that needs to be investigated.
Does it need to be investigated or by rights, or have they decided to come and investigate it?
I would imagine that Heritage New Zealand would. So the way it works, from my understanding, is that a question is asked of Heritage New Zealand, and then they determine whether or not an archaeological survey is required. And in this instance, it looks as though they have requested that. So
how big a footprint's going here, Derek? Because it's a 6-pan toilet building. How far is the footprint going to move?
The alignment's different, so it's more of linear shape, whereas the current facility is, I suppose, for want of a better term, relatively circular. So the alignment that's being proposed is has almost 2 wings and roughly facing the road. So it's all laid out in two sort of wings from a central portion.
Right, and would they excavating what, down a metre max, something like that, would they?
Yep, that's probably fair to say.
So what's the cost of that, do you know?
What, the archaeological survey?
Yeah.
I can't comment, sorry. It's not that close to the project, but I'm sure we can find that out.
Through the chair, can I suggest that in Ross's absence that Nicole writes down as something for us to get Ross to send you all out an email just to confirm the design and where we're at in next steps?
Certainly.
Yeah, it'd be good because we need Ross at site to talk about this because this is a big number. This is $800,000. I know some of it's funded by something else, but it's been chopped down in the budget quite dramatically. But it's still big numbers.
Our component.
Okay,
I've got Ross on the phone. Ross is just travelling. He's just driving at the moment, so he's just pulled over. So I can put him on speaker and we can have a quick chat if you see if that'll work if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, dear Ross.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, can everyone hear Ross?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So my question, Ross, was around the footprint and the need for an archaeological assessment. Derek said that the footprints changed dramatically or quite extensively, and obviously you put this into the projects, and Heritage New Zealand picked it up and said they want to come and inspect it. Is that right?
Yeah. So the Heritage New Zealand, we're always going to apply for a heritage application, and we've got a archaeological assessment done for that. So it's likely, I think the conditions of the assessment is for an archaeologist to be there on site during construction. The footprint is different, so it's a much bigger building, and it's going to sit probably a couple of metres closer to the entrance the driveway entrance there into the reserve. I'm hopeful that whole area that's been altered quite a bit. You've got a construction happening when they put in the access there, and then there's a garden and things like that. But yes, it does need an archaeological authority, and they will be looking to be there during construction.
Can you just confirm what during construction is? If this is a footprint change of some difference, are they there through the whole construction or until the pad's poured on that part of it?
No, it'll just be for when we prep the site for when the building comes in. So the Heritage Authority included the footprint that's going to happen, that's going to occur for the new building. So we always had that footprint, and we always had that same footprint as part of the Heritage Authority and the Heritage Assessment. So that, yeah.
And that's part of the cost, isn't it, Ross?
It will be, yes, it will be. So that'll be basically, hopefully a couple of days only. If they find something during that excavation period, then basically they may stop the work. So what I think, how we're going to mitigate that is that because the building comes in on situ, so it's built off site and then transported on there. So we'll have to allow a bit of programming for that, for the excavation to occur maybe a week or two before the building's put in there. So that, you know, if they do find something and they do want to go take it away for assessment or if things stop, then we want to try and limit the amount of cost there.
Fine.
Sorry, mate, I just had to run outside to read that. Yeah, I got that. Okay. Yeah, like it. So this is not budgeted stuff. We just hope the 2 days will work and we'll live with that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Was there anything else?
Any other questions for Ross while we got him on the phone?
No, I don't, not for me anyway. I don't think so.
That cost we're looking at, that's just TCDC's amount, isn't it? The other half is the tourism funding. Yep.
So what numbers are we at there, Roscoe? At the moment was 800,000. What are we talking about now?
Well, no, at this stage it's still 800,000. We've got a little bit of contingency within that, so at this stage it's within budget. And as I said, hopefully with the Heritage Authority, it won't go over the contingency. But we don't know until we start digging, unfortunately.
Fine.
Could take them to lunch somewhere for a couple of days.
You could do that, Jerry.
If they find my grandpa's pipe, it's ours.
Thank you, Roscoe. Thanks for your help.
Okay.
Is there any further items on that program you want to talk about, discuss?
Well, the one that would be the Pauanui skate park, which we talked the Tairua one this morning. Any comment on that before we move on?
Just that we went out and met on site with the skaters of Pauanui. We've then gone away and basically drawn up what they were after and the changes. So the idea is to try and make best use of the current bowl, convert it into, it's sort of halfway between the street and the bowl, and the idea is to improve it, to also resurface and do some changes. What we'll do, we've sent that plan back to the skaters to just confirm that they're happy with those, and they've said verbally they are. The next step will be basically we'll put that as a design build again, similar to Tairua, and get an estimate cost on those. So that's we're working with it. Hopefully with the same, we go through the tender process. The same builder may actually end up doing both the Tairua and the Pauanui one. But we've got two options basically. We could look at Jason, who's doing Whangamatara as well, to do Pauanui. So they'll be tendering the job for the design and build based on that concept plan, which has been endorsed by the stakeholders, basically.
Oh, thanks very much.
I've just got a question. Are we going to ensure that Ocean Beach Road curb and channel gets put into the long-term plan and get back to the 3 Ws that we're supposed to be looking after?
So that's not Ross on that one. That one was Sam Edlin, I think, was project manager for that project. And that's something that the I think we said the long-term plan for that one, didn't we? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Can we get it into the long-term plan? It's 3 Ws. You know, it's stormwater, and we need to do something about it.
Yeah, that one, if you remember, is roading and stormwater. So, but that can be considered over the second half of this calendar year as the long-term plan budgets are built up. So staff are aware of that one. That will be included in the long-term plan for consideration by the board and council as that long-term plan gets built up.
Thank you.
Chris, can I just talk to that for a second?
Yeah.
That $171,000 was coming out of local funding.
Correct.
Because it's been deferred and going to the long-term plan, it's going to go into a program. Could that money be retained by the by Tairua-Pauanui and it goes into a district-funded program?
It's not really district-funded work because it's just curb and channel on a local road, so there's not a big district benefit. Can I just stop myself? Can we just let? Are we happy to let Ross go? He's still hanging on here.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, that's probably my fault. Okay. Thanks, Ross.
Thank you, Ross.
Okay. Right, I've got rid of Ross. So back to the question. So it's really a local project, and so I think
is it stormwater or is it curb and channel?
It's water. It's control of water on the road, so that's why it's under a roading project. Now, obviously, we've talked about stormwater and roading kind of cross over a little bit with the having to control stormwater on roads, understandably, but that's really not classified as a stormwater project. It was a roading project as part of the curb and channel controlling stormwater that's on a road. So yeah, that was where we got to with that one previously.
Is local roading though district funded now?
No.
It's not?
No.
Is local roading funded by NCTA?
But we're funded, Wentworth Valley Road is a district funded project.
So that was just as part of the previous LTP, and that was a specific project that went through. And I think what you'll find at that one was there was a case put forward around a lot of use for tourism, people going up that road to get up to the dock reserve, to the campground, to the walks across the ranges. So I think you'll find that's why that was a district project and not a local project.
Oh, I thought we'd moved all local roading to district funding back in 2018, but I may be wrong. So okay.
Bruce, we could actually put that as a case because it's one of the main routes down to where the surf beach is and where the fishing beach is.
You could do, and that would be a political decision, I suppose. If elected members want to have that discussion, you'd probably have that as part of the long-term plan. The risk is, if you look at individual jobs like that, is that you could probably come up with a case for 90% of all the local roads in each ward as to why they should be district funded. So again, that's it's a difficult conversation, but definitely one that is probably a long-term. Well, it is a long-term plan conversation if the board or elected members are interested to go there.
Fine. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else got any other queries? Can I ask about the Pauanui Tairua walkway? Has there been any further movement there that we should know?
I'm just looking for that one. Pauanui to Tairua walkway.
Cycleway.
What's their work is the last that I got straight from Andy Bolton, and that was basically the last week of April. So I haven't heard anything more from Andy as to where that's going, but that report on there is directly from Andy.
Thank you very much. Okay. Right, after no.
Oh, on that, Eileen, thank you for sending the mediators report out to all of us, and I think everyone should work together.
Okay.
Find ways to work together to get it through.
Time's moving on. If there's no further questions, I'll put that resolution for a vote to the vote. We've got a mover and seconded, so all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
The noes. Carried. Thank you very much. Moving on, we're getting a bit behind schedule. 2.3. Tairua CCTV camera receiver installation and internet charges.
I'll move that we adopt this.
We have a seconder, please.
Yes, second that.
Thank you, Barry. Any discussion? Any questions? I've got one question. I'm just wondering whether that I don't have a clue how much these things have cost in the past. Eileen, can you let the ones at Pauanui, is this a similar sort of charge, a cost?
This is actually just the internet charges. So in the past, the internet charges have been, the CCTV camera has been hooked into the entire information centre's Wi-Fi. Yep. So effectively, they've had their Wi-Fi. When the information centre shifted, Chris Brook has been letting us, the CCTV camera, use his own Wi-Fi. So Pauanui ones, their Wi-Fi comes from the Waterways office. So Waterways are picking up that Wi-Fi. So I guess this discussion in the future, when the Waterways shut that office, this will be a discussion that we'll be having again in the future with the Pauanui Neighbourhood Watch about the same thing, as funding those internet charges.
But currently it's a similar charge, is it?
I would suspect so. Even though there's 2 cameras there, it would still be the one annual fee.
Mm. Okay. Any further questions on that? No? Well, can I put the resolution? All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried. Moving on, 3.1. Oh, this is another. Just another mouthful of reading. The Tairua-Pauanui Community Board 1 receives the draft Thames-Coromandel District Council Open Space and Community Facility Strategy Report, dated 29th of April 2020, and second, provide staff with comment on the draft Open Space and Community Facility Strategy for consideration by Council at its 23rd June 2020 meeting. Can we have a move and seconder so we can discuss this, please? I'll move. Seconder, please.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you. Right.
Sorry, who moved that? I didn't.
I moved. Warwick.
Warwick, got on you. Okay.
Very second.
Thank you.
My first question, if I can get the first one, is the dates. This obviously, we're not going to be able to comply within our next community board meeting follows your full council meeting. So if someone got an answer about how we're going to do all this?
Workshop.
Yeah, well, tell me how and where and when.
Who's going to speak to this?
Oh, you can fire off, Terry.
No, who's going to speak from council? Who's going to speak? Who's prepared this district council open space and community facilities strategy? Is somebody coming online to talk about it?
I think
Leslie, are you there?
Yeah.
I can see her icon.
It says she's on hold.
Oh.
I don't know how you make her on hold.
You ring her up.
I'll just flick her an email.
Yeah.
I'd have to say it's a pretty comprehensive piece of a report to digest. And you must have some thoughts while we're waiting.
I have, but Leslie too. It's a big document.
Yes.
It's moving towards a partnership and team, which is something I've been used to working on in the past, where you've got, what I call the stakeholders and that can have benefits. I'd hate to see all our reserves sold.
Whoa. That's not going to happen, is it?
Good morning, it's Leslie Vivers here.
Oh,
Good
thank you,
morning.
Leslie.
Okay.
Would you like to?
Yes, good morning. I don't think I've ever come to the community board meeting before, so just like to introduce myself. I'm Leslie Vivers. I'm the principal strategic planner, and I work under Joe Cook-Munro and Stephen Hunt. So hello, everyone.
Hello.
I've got this report before you. It's presenting a draft open space and community facilities strategy. I'm going to take it as read, but just wanted to say that this has been prepared in order to guide council's decision making around open spaces and community facilities over the next 10 years. It's got a council vision in there, draft vision. It's got 3 strategic goals, one being strong open space and community facilities networks, the second one being effective management of council's open space and community facilities networks, and the third one is around collaboration and partnership. And we've got an action plan in the back of the strategy as well that sets out a number of actions. But basically, my research showed that we've got enough land and quite a diversity in the types of open space that we've got in the district. But the challenges are around the condition of some of the community facilities we have, around the types of some of the types of open space, and the need to upgrade some of the playgrounds and things that we've got on those spaces. And about the affordability of repurposing some of those open spaces and community facilities for future needs. And we've got some challenges around management practices, which we're starting to address. So those are the issues that the strategy covers. But I'm really looking for some feedback from the community board about what the strategy says and what their views are on some of these issues.
Good morning, Leslie. Terry Walker, how are you?
Good morning, Councillor Walker.
I got mixed up this morning between your plan and the
I know, I heard.
Yeah. So how do they connect?
Well, the way I see it is that the strategy the draft strategy that I've got before you today is actually a council-owned document, and it's the council's strategic direction, whereas the document that Derek and others were presenting to you is actually quite a different document. It's about how the different community groups will work together.
So this one decides if more land's required for recreation? Does it come through your document or through that document?
Through my document. My document is about how council will manage what it owns and manages.
Right. Okay. So yours overrides their document. In other words, it sits above.
Well, it's a council-owned document, whereas the other document I think is put together by Waikato, the sports groups.
Right. And does your document lead into any of the regional council documents?
No. It does talk about partnerships and where the regional council is involved in partnership programs. We certainly, one of the actions is that we strengthen those partnerships and those relationships we have with other people and other organizations.
Yes, because it talks about DOC and iwi and
Yes.
mainly DOC and WRC in terms of marginal strips and things like that.
And the Ministry of Education as well, because we've got some swimming pools. Yeah.
Okay, I just need to understand because I was getting confused between which one was going where. But anyway,
yes.
I'll pick it up. So I just got a couple of questions, and the first one I did ask this morning, I'll ask of you.
Yes.
Around the Development Contribution Subcommittee, which I was a member of, am a member of. That meeting was around Scott Summerfield when he was there, and it never came to anything. We haven't had that structural meeting with the subcommittee of the development contributions. Does that have to happen as part of this review?
Not as I don't think so. This strategy doesn't actually address how council works in terms of its political organization. So I'm not aware of whether that subcommittee still standing.
It's still standing, but the Development Contributions Committee is it does look at whether and how effective they are in terms of providing for the reserves and outgoing lands when development comes up.
Yes. So what my strategy does, it actually says, do we need any land for reserves and open spaces? And by my accounting, I don't think we need to acquire any more land for reserves. So that will factor in, I think, to any decision about what you do about development contributions. It won't. It will factor. It will be a factor in the thinking, but it won't be a decision. You know, it will help you to make decisions about development contributions.
It certainly will. It'll make us look at whether contributions are required or not, because that's
Yes.
obviously where they go to. And by
Yes.
dropping the development contribution, say, to zero, it allows development to flourish without the needs of contributing to reserves, because you feel there's enough land. Is that how I read it?
Yes. Yes, but the strategy itself is not going to say you should or shouldn't make take a development contribution. It just says we've got enough reserves. If you get my drift. Yeah.
The Development Contribution Committee will work on the other side for sure. I
Yes. Yes.
You're talking about that seeking feedback on these through the community boards, which was great. Obviously, the 12th of May ain't going to work.
No.
So, when are you looking for this information to head back from the community boards to you for present to council?
As soon as possible. I am hoping to get to the June 23rd council meeting. That much will depend on how we go with COVID-19, and we were hoping to have an early engagement with iwi. They have been tied up with COVID-19, so we haven't wanted to go asking them for feedback on a strategy when they've got bigger things to think about.
So how do we get around the fact that the next community board meeting for the Tairua-Pauanui is after the council meeting?
Well, you might want to give me informal feedback prior to the council meeting, or even today if you'd like to.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. You'd have to ask the board how they're fitting with that, but yeah. So there's a little difficulty around timing is what I'm trying to raise here.
Yes, I will, if necessary. I will wait. I will wait for feedback if you can give me some assurance of when you'll get it to me by.
Right. So my last question, sorry to hog your time.
It's fine.
Is around the strategic direction and actions.
Yes.
At page 25 of what I'm looking at here.
Okay.
Okay, so it talks about those points there. If council can only require open use spaces where there is robust evidence that demand is certain and long term. So you're looking for that information to come through from where?
Well, that is actually, that phrase was taken out of the infrastructure strategy that the council has as part of its long-term plan. I'm just struggling to find your page 25. Oh, here we are. Yes.
Strategic direction.
Yes.
One.
Yes. Yes. Oh, sorry. Is that someone talking over top?
Somebody's got their mic on, please.
Yes.
Turn your mics off.
Who was on the phone?
Barry, I think.
Yeah, it was me. Sorry about that.
Hello?
Yeah, carry on, Lizzie.
Sorry. Yes, Councillor Walker, would you like to repeat that question again? I sort of got you got interrupted by the voice over the top.
Sorry. Yeah. So I'm looking at the strategic direction and actions that come out of your
yes.
Plan. So point one is 2 points I want to make here. Point one, the council only requiring new open spaces where there is robust evidence that demand is certain and long term.
Yes. Well, the evidence will be to backtrack a little bit. Council is currently doing a kind of stock take of all the open spaces it has, and that's relating to the reserves management plan review that's been going on. So we will, at the end of those reserve management plan reviews, we will have a much better idea of what land we own, how we're using it, what kind of a park or a reserve it is, whether it's for recreational use or for the different, that's different kinds, civic use or neighborhood park. So we will have a much better idea of how much we have. And we also are using, as I said in the report, the New Zealand Recreations Association's recommendations about how much reserve or how much open space is needed by population and the kind of quality of that open space. So that will give us a much better handle on on whether we need more or what we need more of, and what the condition of what we've got is. And that's what I mean about robust evidence.
So can I just give you one example which you don't have to fully explain today, but recently the Thames Community Board bought a piece of land for $1 million on a floodplain to obviously put a pool complex on. That is having a lot of pressure from the regional council about where it's sited. Was that considered under as an area of land that is the demand is certain and that the robust evidence around its location?
Well, I think I might say that that transaction occurred before this draft strategy was put together. So, they didn't have that guidance in, and this is still draft. It hasn't actually yet become council policy. It has to be adopted.
I'm not saying it was a right or wrong do. I'm saying if that policy was today and you looked at it, would you be more robust about that decision?
Well, I think you would have to factor in whether we have a shortage of, that land is bought for a certain purpose, I understand. And there is an existing swimming pool that can't stay where it is. So, I mean, without me getting into the right or the wrong of the situation, I think that this open space strategy would set up criteria that you would have to take into account, whereas those criteria aren't yet in place.
Okay, thank you. I won't dwell on that. Thank you. So the other question I've got is point 1 to point 4 of that strategic direction actions.
Yes.
Establishing criteria and guide decisions about acquiring and disposing of council-owned open spaces and community facilities, and revoking or removing the reserve status of land reserves under the Reserves Act 1977.
Yes.
I had that question too.
How and why are you putting that there?
Well, for example, in the future, we might find that we have too many of, say, too many neighborhood reserves. This is just hypothetical in an area, and not enough civic spaces, for example. So we might and there might be some opportunity for us to sell a piece of land that we are not using or that we don't need. Currently, we don't have any criteria. It's just very ad hoc. So if you set up criteria, then you know that you've got a robust system for evaluating if that eventuality did occur. I'm not saying it will occur, but in the event that it does occur, at least you've got some criteria you can go to say, this will happen in the same way in Thames as it will happen on the other side or in any other ward.
We'd be hoping that community boards are fully engaged in that process when that happens, for sure.
I would expect that they would be, yes.
Leslie, could I say something? Yeah, I'd like to reiterate on that too.
Yes.
Go to page 24, it says this draft strategy is a non-statutory document.
Yes, it is.
So how would that measure up against the Reserves Act 1977?
This, as I've said at the beginning, this is a council document.
Yep.
The council has to abide by the Reserves Act. This is this is to guide council's decision making, but the council must take into account anything that the Reserves Act says it has to take into account. It has to fulfill its responsibilities under the Reserves Act, under the Resource Management Act, under the Conservation Act, all of those acts. We must abide by our responsibilities.
So really it's your internal plan to work within all the legislation. Would that be correct? Yep. Now,
Yes.
And also on that page, I note that, and this would be my comment too, you use the New Zealand Recreation Association's parks categories framework guidelines to assess that. I think that's excellent because I've done a lot of work and a lot of recognised guidelines in that, along with cycling trails and tramping tracks. And I think if we use that as a base in their working, it's going to avoid arguments and problems down the road. It gets it into proper decision making.
Yes, and you get a consistency, I think, to your decision making across the district. Yeah.
Are you actually working with the New Zealand Recreation Association now? Because they have done a lot of webinars on it over the last 5 weeks during COVID lockdown.
No, I'm not actively working with them, though I have. I've been working with Derek Thompson and he has given me access to some of the documents
Yeah.
that they publish.
I know that Esther Burkholt down in Wellington is very, very good at putting you in touch with the right person in the right department.
Yes, and because this strategy is a strategic document, it's an overarching document, so it doesn't get down to saying a particular park will have X, Y, and Z. I think that and you know, so it's a higher level than that.
And
So,
at X, Y, and level it should be the community board that can advocate on behalf of the residents, shouldn't it?
yes, and it'll be the Parks Department that gives you that particular advice, and and I'm sure we'll use the NZRA as a guideline.
And Derek does a wonderful job.
Yes,
that's what he does.
Yes.
Obviously, the reserve management plan will fall under this, won't it?
Yes, it does. Yes. So this is kind of like the overarching guiding principles for councils, open spaces, and community facilities. But those reserve management plans are your kind of active management of your reserves.
So with those reserve management plans still not being signed off, what kind of feedback are you looking for to complement this policy?
Anything you'd like to give me, any comments you have, negative or positive, on this proposed actions, on the vision, on the strategic goals, I'll be very keen to get any feedback.
Leslie, once it's done, will it go out to all of our ratepayers and residents for comment? You know,
it is going to go out to public consultation. Yes.
Good. Yeah, so they'd have opportunity to say something as well.
Yes, they will.
I think
that's just a question, Leslie. From
yes.
Were we not supposed to be reviewing our reserve this year? Our management of our local reserves.
Yes,
is that due up for review this year?
I believe you are. Yes.
Yeah. Any idea of date?
No, I don't. I think Derek would be a better person to answer that question.
So are we putting the cart before the horse, or what?
Not necessarily. I think if all things being equal, I think the strategy would have come before the reserve management plans, but you did have old reserve management plans in place. Your reserve management plans are being reviewed.
Yes.
It is what it is. You've had the reserve management plans in place and you started the review before the strategy was done. But, as long as we end up in the right place, I think we're fine.
It's a little disappointing, though, because we were going to review the freedom camping bylaws, which has a big impact on those reserves as well. So there are a few things that need to be aligned so they do fall into place, because some of those discussions will have some effect into your policy.
Can I also add too, I can see you've got the cultural and heritage reserves as well, nature reserves. So I presume that you are also working with DOC and New Zealand Heritage and Archaeology and iwi and our Shoreline Committee, because all of those are interlinked, aren't they?
They're all interlinked. And if you notice, I have said that one of the big challenges for the district is natural hazards.
Yeah.
Because a number of our community facilities, our boat ramps, buildings, and a number of reserves are affected by natural hazards.
So therefore it's also important to also have DOC input and, and archaeology input as well before we, make a decision.
Yes.
Right. Well,
is that the right track?
No, that's good. It's good feedback. Thank you.
Must be any further comment out there?
Any other comment? I'd be looking closely at section 3.5, how council currently funds open spaces and community facilities. And again, from my experience of all these webinars I've attended over the last 6 weeks, there's better funding opportunities for us elsewhere to get funding for something if we can show that we have a properly, plan like this.
Yes.
A project, isn't it?
Project.
Okay, so obviously our board is going to have to get together and I guess we have a little workshop on our own, do we? Is it, or is someone from the staff going to facilitate something here in town for us, or we're going to submit our own ideas to you, Leslie, or what do you think?
Well, I think probably the best thing is if you just email me your ideas. I've taken notes of what's been said this morning. If there's anything additional that members would like to say to me, or let us know before we go out to public consultation, I will note every comment that I get and take it into account.
Our individual
yes
on this. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
And of course you can submit when it goes out to public consultation. You're perfectly, you can submit as well.
And I think a key point here is that the community board, that the councillors wanted the community board to submit or to put your ideas forward. So it's really important that you do step up here and give Leslie your best feedback as possible going forward. So it'll be good.
Right. Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just got one, Leslie. On the public consultation, are you going to do, how are you going to do it? Are you just going to put it out there, or are you going to have meetings around the district?
No, I think we're just going to put it up on the website. We are going to be sending a copy of the draft strategy to some of the key stakeholders like DOC and the Ministry of Education, iwi, and to Heritage New Zealand.
Advertising?
You could do a webinar, because some of them did a webinar for us on different things that are going to impact. Maybe have a webinar with them.
Well, we'll see. I haven't thought about a webinar, but I'll take that into account. Thank you.
Yeah, that all of them are doing it at the moment.
Okay.
Terry, did you have another comment?
No, she's answered my questions. Thank you.
Okay, happy. Well, with no further discussion, I thank you, Leslie.
Thank you very much.
I'll put this to a vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
No against? No against? Carried. Thank you very much. And thank you for your time, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I hope you're inundated.
Thank you.
Moving along to item 4 on the agenda, 4.1. Oh, here's another, the Shoreline Management Plan Project update. And the resolution is that the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board 1 receives the Shoreline Management Plan Project update dated 11 May 2020, and 2 resolves to nominate a Tairua-Pauanui Community Board member for representation on the Southeast Coastal Panel. Can I have a mover and seconder, please?
I'm happy to move that way.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Sorry.
Can you make sense out of that?
No, sorry.
Come again?
Who moved? Who seconded?
I moved. Terry Walker.
Thanks, Terry.
I seconded.
Thanks, Anne.
Okay. Who was going to speak on this?
Amon.
Sorry.
Good
Amon.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Welcome,
Amon Martin here. I'm the Asset and Planning Manager, but also the Project Manager for the Shoreline Management Plan Project. I suppose just a bit of a background and update from me that goes alongside the report. It's a significant project that's undertaken over 3 years. We're just through the first year of the project, so we've got 2 years remaining. The formation of coastal panels is quite an important part of the project, and the district has been divided up into 4 areas to help us focus on specific issues. So there is a Thames Coast panel, Coromandel all the way around to Kennedy Bay, basically a Mercury Bay one, and then a southeast one. So that's the panel we're asking for nominations from you guys for. The panel members are requested to be community board members with councillors being represented at the council level. So the decisions and recommendations will eventually come to council. But the panel itself is to be made up of community board members rather than panel members. So that's an important thing that was asked for clarification recently. The projects or the panels will probably run for 18 months to 24 months so through to the conclusion of the project. There's likely to be about 10 workshops. So we're looking at every couple of months meeting to discuss the hazards, the options, both short and long term. And I think that's a bit of a general overview, but more than happy to take questions.
Hi, I'm Terry here. How you going?
Good, thanks, Terry.
Got a couple of questions. Just clarification first. This panel, coastal panels for the southeast or the eastern area, and includes Tairua-Pauanui and Onimona and Wangmata, etc. Is there one panel, or is there a panel in each of the two panels? Tell me, I don't know.
So there's one panel that covers that whole area. So it is a little bit unique and tricky in that you've got two community boards sitting there, and I guess what we're proposing is we think will work, but if there's other opinions about needing, I don't know, Tairua versus or Pauanui to be represented separately and another member, we're happy to take suggestions and take that back to council as part of our recommendation if that's how it works out.
Yeah, I would certainly recommend that we have one from each of the community boards in terms of Tairua-Pauanui and Wangmata. So 3 of the community boards would be represented on those. I think that's really important. The other one is when will the selection take place for the panel?
So it's not so much an election, but our nominations are open.
Selection, not election.
Selection, yeah. So the nominations are open for a month, and then all going well, we'll have a strategic advisory group that reviews and recommends those to council on the 23rd, I think, of June is the next opportunity to do that. And first coastal panel meetings could be shortly after that in July.
Okay, that's the next question. So you've answered that question. That's great. And the meeting frequency, you think around about bi-monthly, is that correct?
Yeah, every 2 months. We've got 10 kind of topics to address over the 18 months to 2 years. Some of them we might be able to combine, so they could be slightly longer workshops, but we could cut it down to 8, so slightly less frequently, possibly.
So on the panel selection, you've got those who are elected and those who will support it. Will they be available at each of those meetings, those like coastal engineer and IT and all those things? They will be at each meeting?
Yes, yep. So there'll be support people from the project answering questions and presenting options, talking about the hazards and risks, so that it isn't the panels aren't on their own, I suppose. They will be well supported.
So just last question. So it's going to be quite a big group. So where do you think of holding these is really what we're heading?
That's a good question. We haven't worked out exactly where to have them. We're trying to keep them local. Probably the COVID-19's kind of put us back on that thinking, where we're starting to think about how this type of meeting via Zoom and Skype, etc., can work. So that could be part of the solution as well.
Yep.
Yeah, because you get, like, if you go to the Memorial Hall in Wangmata, there's no internet, and we have to think about that because I don't know if TCDC office is big enough, but you'll have to give it some thought for sure if you're going to do online interaction. Okay, well, yeah, good luck. I think it's a great thing, so hope it works.
Amon, I understand from a couple of concerned ratepayers that rang me over the weekend, the application to join this group is on the website, council's website.
Yes,
so in saying, do you you know, you could get flooded with applications. What's going to be the criteria? Who's going to make the decision about who's on, who's off?
There's a chance we will get flooded. Actually, I've had quite a good feedback and people ringing up just in the last couple of days. Not big numbers, but it's only been out for a little while. So the council will make the final decision, but we'll be reviewing to try and get a diverse set of interests in terms of people who may have businesses that will be affected, people who live right close to the coastal zone, whereas that should be balanced by people who are not affected as much day to day, and looking for people with a little bit of technical background as well as those without. So it will be interesting, and we won't know what our perfect makeup is until we see all these nominations come through. One thing that is quite key is someone to be able to help chair the meeting. So I've already had some people who've had experience chairing meetings put their hand up and want to meet with me as well.
Oh, very good, very good. Good luck on that. Andy, you looking to say something, were you?
No.
Oh, I thought I saw your name highlighted.
No, I'm listening.
Okay, well, let's keep any further discussion.
I'll just quick name on. Is Jim Darm and those kind of people involved?
Yes, he's well aware of the project, and we've used him on various things. Whether or not he wants to be a panel member rather than I guess person offering expert consultancy advice I'm not sure. He hasn't indicated at this stage.
Okay, thank you.
So can I ask who on our board is keen to jump on this and be a representative of the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board?
Oh, it looks like I'm the only one from Tairua, so from Pauanui, so it looks fine.
Are you happy to do that, Barry, or do you want to leave it to just one person? But I would have thought Pauanui would have an invested interest.
Yeah, well, I've done volunteer work on the dunes and things, and yeah, so yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, if nobody else putting their hand up, I'd have a go at it too, I suppose. If you want someone from both sides.
Yep, you'd be a good man.
Yeah, well, I'm happy with all that.
For me, as I've said before on the shoreline management plan, I'm happy to offer expertise, information and knowledge, both in having done beach planting, rescued Pahutakawa trees where we used to live, and also too from point of view of history and a whole lot of things around shoreline.
Yeah, well, I guess you're
but
quite.
I don't want to go on the shoreline committee. On the shoreline.
You don't want to?
No, I think I'd nominate Barry to do it.
Barry and Chris.
Can we have two? We've only got one community board, and we're only allowed one member.
No, you can have two if Amon's happy with that, because I think you need representation from both of those coastal areas. They've got both their own identities, and it's good to have points of view from both sides, I feel. So
except Terry, the coastline, like the shoreline management plan area that they've chosen, that coast is interlinked for the whole, regardless of whether it's Pauanui or Tairua.
I think you'll find that we'll have people interested from Poetry, from Onimanu, and from Wangmata. So
so we're going to have 5 community board people on it.
No, you can also have public.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Everyone's entitled to put a application in to join.
Amon will rattle the dice.
Okay, any further discussion?
No.
Thank you, Amon. So I'll
Thank
put the resolution. All in favour?
No.
Aye.
Right, hang on. I'll say that again. All that in favour?
Aye.
Any against? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry and Chris. I look forward to working with you more closely in the future. Thank you.
Yes, Amon. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, item number 5, community community facilities. This is the Tairua-Pauanui commercial operators licenses on or over public places, including council reserves. The resolution is that the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board receives the Tairua-Pauanui commercial operators licenses on or over public land. Correct, and lands there missing or public places, including council reserves, 1 July 2020, 30th of June 2022. Report dated 30th of April, part 2, is recommends to council that the following licenses be issued to operate commercial activities on or over council reserves in the Tairua-Pauanui ward for a term of 2 years from 1 July 2020 to 30 June 2022, as per the attachment A, a comprehensive report recommendations. Can we have a mover and seconder, please? Can we have a mover and seconder, please?
Yeah, I'll move it, Warren.
Thank you. I'll take it. I'll second. Discussions, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to get Eileen's opinion on this. She's right involved with all these people and their performance and their ability to do the job well. Has she got any comment?
Sorry, I was just trying to find my unmute button. No, this is, I've just lost actually the agenda item off my screen, but this is only one application, isn't it? This is just for Outback Surf. Yep. Outback Surf, we've never had any issues with them. Hayden and Erin have been really good operators. So I've got no qualms about reissuing them a commercial license.
Yep.
If somebody else approaches within the next 2 years to do it, what happens? To do something?
To do a surf school or just to do something else in that area?
Do something in that area.
Well, they can't reapply until it comes up. They can't apply until it comes up for expressions of interest again.
So just say to the community board, are you aware of what this is? This means there's only one operator on either of those beaches over that next 2 year period.
Yeah, I'd sort of query things like, I know Jeff Turner has a little kayak hire business going down here.
Yeah.
Is he part of this sort of deal, or?
Well, he was centre just like all the other existing operators.
Yeah.
From what I understand, Natasha did send emails and letters to remind them to put in their expressions of interest. Jeff Turner hasn't put any in, even though he's been reminded. So it would be a call that Derek's team would make, I guess, if he comes in and says, hey, I forgot all about it or whatever. It would be their call. I mean, because he is the only operator that's in Tairua anyway, so there's not like he's going to be stepping on anyone's toes.
Yeah, but,
I just think in light of what COVID's and the tourist industry, I don't know whether he's thinking twice about where he's going, but Chris, if you maybe approach him just to clarify, because, you know, you'll just get a drama otherwise.
Yeah, well, I don't think we should be shutting the door on these guys for a couple of years.
No. So maybe we should defer this until you've made sure everybody's aware of it or something. I don't know.
Well, in Tairua and Pauanui, we only ever had Jeff Turner in Tairua and Outback Surf in Pauanui. We did have a couple of years ago, Michelle Newton came over and she had a coffee stand at the South End beach, but yeah, she hasn't put an application in again either.
Yeah, then there was the pizza guy over in Pauanui.
Oh,
And
yeah,
they-
the pictures, oh, yeah, but they've, yeah, they haven't come back, and that business was sold, and I think all the equipment was sold, I'd heard, but
And Eileen, there was a coffee shop at the north end too of Tairua Beach, wasn't there, the surf beach?
that's right, but they never did any good there, so they shut up shop on that.
And that could be, you know, the change with COVID too.
Yeah, but I think they should still be able to come and apply
Yep.
over the next 2 years rather than saying, oh, sorry, you're going to wait till 2022.
Well, that's the call. That's a call that community facilities can make. They're the ones who are running this these commercial licenses, and they had said that there would be, once they were all in, that was it. But I mean, if they come in, if you guys you've made it clear today that you guys would like to consider any more, then that's what needs to be relayed back to community facilities.
I think we should definitely.
Yeah.
Sorry, through the chair, can I just hop in there? My understanding is that there has been a directive from the CE around, you know, encouraging and accepting additional applications to sort of encourage and stimulate, you know, tourism in the economy. So I'd be hesitant because if this is the only opportunity, I certainly don't think that's what I've heard from community facilities to date. So I certainly wouldn't treat this as the be all and end all for it's a very long time. In addition to the resolution around it encourages future applications over the next, you know, 7 years.
I think that should be written into the resolution.
Yeah, well, because all their advertising and all their comms that community facilities had put out previously was that no late applications would be considered. So perhaps we need to get community facilities to relook at their, if that directions come from the CE, then we need to get community facilities to redo some of their comms as well.
Okay, sorry, through the chair.
Yes.
Derek speaking. Regards to that no late applications being accepted, that was so that we could prepare reports to the boards in time. That was obviously before the COVID shutdown.
Yes.
Just as a context, there's only one application for Tairua-Pauanui, but I think we had something like 27 for Mercury Bay, and so there's quite a lot of work that actually goes in the preparation of these. So sorry, that's all the regarding around the cut-off dates. Thank you.
So Derek, just to, or Eileen, not sure which. So when in looking at this application, are we looking to say that this one here is accepted for a year and the other ones can apply within the next year, or how are we looking at? I don't quite understand where we're.
So this one's a license to occupy or to operate for 2 years time frame. Now, if anybody else came along and wanted to operate in the same area for a surf school, then that would be a no. But if they wanted to operate in a slightly different location, then we would consider that.
So they invited, say in 6 months' time they came, they would only get 18 months worth of, so it all due on the same time.
Correct, and I'll refer you back to a conversation previously that you were discussing with Leslie. You were talking about the reserve management plans. So by the time we re-advertise for our next lot of concessions, we will have, with the board, we would have worked through the reserve management plans, and that may come out with clear identification of, for instance, this is a perfect spot for 5 surf schools. You know, this is hypothetical, obviously, but this is a great location to consider more than 1 surf school, or we consider only 1 surf school across the whole beachfront, etc. Okay.
Yeah, good move. Good move. Okay.
Yes, so Derek, on our website it is still saying that all applications have closed and there will be no late applications considered. So we'll need to get those comms changed.
Sure.
I think that's a good idea because there's actually lots of people, I've heard of lots of people who've talked to me, and it's online now too. There's lots of people looking up and working out businesses. It's quite amazing what's coming through.
Yeah, you're quite right. I think the whole COVID situation has put a completely different lens on it.
Yeah, so some of it's, you know, dreamers and some of it's concrete. And it could be somebody that wants to have a place on the beach.
So we're looking at some flexibility here.
So you're actually saying that the community board won't have any input into any more?
No, the process is that whenever somebody comes forward, we vet the application to make sure they've got whatever it is that they need, insurances, the correct qualifications, etc., and licenses if they need licenses from other parties. And then we present a paper to the community board, and then the community board approves or denies it, and then it goes to council for ratification. So there is and that does frustrate sometimes the operators when they're requesting, because we always get a flurry before Christmas. And of course, some people perhaps have not thought about the local government processes, and making sure that we can get a paper to the community board and then endorsement by council pre-Christmas sometimes doesn't fit in with people's plans.
So maybe if we look, Derek, at say October and March is times that people who are thinking about it in between can reapply at those times. So it's got some.
Yeah, we put out some comms prior to Christmas last year pointing that out, and we did get some people who filled in within the timeframes, and then we ended up also again a late flurry that unfortunately they were just too late to do it.
Yeah.
So in terms of what we're talking about now, that we're opening up the door a little bit more, we need to revise that resolution so it includes the fact that people can apply at certain times going forward.
Yeah. Would you like to move something, Terry?
Well, I'll just have an amendment if Chris is happy to include that in there.
Yep.
So what we recommend the council, the following license be issued to operate commercial activities over the council reserves in the Tairua-Pauanui ward for a term, for a term of 2 years, and accept further applications at set times for consideration by the board up to that 2 year period, something like that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
I'll second that, Terry.
We're just waiting for our scribe here to alter the resolution.
Scribe's doing a wonderful job.
Sorry. Yeah, everything
job.
went blank there for a minute. Okay, sorry, Terry, and receive further applications.
Yeah, up to if you want to have certain dates that they can apply for, I don't know if that works with Derek or not, to be considered by the community board. And we're talking about getting to that 2 year period date of 30th of June 2020. So yeah.
Further.
Should be in there anyway. Oh shoot.
You're doing well, Nicole.
Thank you, Anne.
Do you want to be, Derek, do you want to take them anytime, or are you looking for a particular October, March thing so it's got some structure around it or not?
Sure, it really depends upon the end of year final community board and final council meeting. That's the end date.
Yeah, so we could have those to put in there. Nicole would be good. Maybe Derek can help you with that bit there.
Okay.
To be able to receive.
Yeah, so this is around when the council signs off on it. So we have it prior to the council sign off on those concessions.
Council are running a webinar tomorrow on hospitality with Tuaka, a sort of a follow-up one. Maybe they should mention that.
We've been considered in advance by the community board, something like that. So it's before those meetings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you happy there, Nicole?
I think so. Was there something further to add to what I've already got ordered?
No, I didn't think so. No, there's just a little bit of banter going on, wasn't it?
Okay. Yeah. Jolly good, and I'll just check dates with Derek to confirm.
So the second part is it recommends to council that the following licenses be issued to operate commercial activities on or over council reserves in the Tairua-Pauanui ward for a term of 2 years from 1 July 2020 to 30 June 2022, and receive further applications up to dates bracketed, refer to Derek, to be considered by the community board. Is that okay, Terry?
Yeah, I think so. Just as long as they're considered in advance of those meetings, that's fine. That's on. As long as
it's still open. It's still open, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still open. Yeah, happy with that.
Okay. Can I put that?
Well, I think if happy with those two movers, the mover and seconder, are happy with that amendment, I'm happy to do it rather than doing an amendment. If they're happy to do that,
I'm happy.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Chris, you happy, Chris?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Okay. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Against? Carried. Thank you very much.
Need a break.
Okay. Five. Oh,
You're doing well, Warwick.
5.2. 5.3. Where are we going?
5.3.
5 point. Oh, sorry. Yes, we've had 5.2. Yes. Okay. Pauanui Surf Club Reserve Development. The resolution is that the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board 1 receives the Pauanui Surf Club Reserve Development report dated 4th of March 2020. Second, it approves the Pauanui Surf Club Reserve Concept Plan. 3, instructs officers to modify the concept and issue a final plan with the following amendments. Do you want me to read out all those amendments, or can everybody read those?
We can all read those. Yeah,
Are you all happy with those? Can we have a seconder and a mover and a seconder, and then open for discussion, please?
I'll second it.
You'll second it. Well, I'll move it.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, let's
Very
discuss
well
this.
together.
Is this a Derek or a Ross project?
It's Derek.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
I'm here
Derek,
to talk
you there?
about it. Yeah, Derek's here to talk about it.
Thank you.
Derek, I'd like to thank you for answering the question I had of Nicole before. It sorted out for me that there were 2 projects, because I knew of the other one as well. So that was good.
Okay.
So
Cool.
thank you for that. And thank
No
you for
problem.
your answers over cost as well.
Yep, no problems. So do you want me to give a quick summary as to why we're at this situation?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, so the project Soul has been a project in the LTP, and it was spread over 2 years. So year 1 was last year, year 2 is this year. It was around about the replacement of the old beach access 9, which was down past the windsock. That had fallen, or was starting to fall into a state where we were getting quite concerned. And so we've removed that. That's not an issue anymore, but we need to replace it. And what we actually replaced it with, discussions with the previous board, we've replaced it with an angled beach access way, which is further north than where the old beach access 9 was. Now that was done out of substantially less than what the budget is. And they also, the previous board wanted us to work with a potential concept to improve access at the surf club. Now that's what this is what we've come up with. We met with some delegates from that the previous board identified, and we've come up with some broad brush concepts in terms of shade, pathways, etc. Now we put that out to the community, the surrounding members of the community, and they were pretty much all opposed to any form of shade trees. But relatively majority, I suppose, would be supportive of some form of pathway with perhaps some minor concerns. And there's as well as the actual plan or concept plan, there's a copy of the consultees' responses as well, which identifies around about 20 or so properties were contacted, provided with the plan, a letter. Some were met, and some were silent, and others were like I say, relatively comfortable about approving the plan and concept, other than the shade trees. So that's why the rather lengthy, and I'm sorry, Warwick, the rather lengthy resolution there. If we're trying to get this done in this financial year, we're getting more and more impinged with obviously the amount of time we've actually got left. So we're pretty confident that we can do the pathway this financial year and work with the men's shed to do any of the furniture as well. So spreading the load, spreading the money as well. And that's where we're at the moment.
So you've virtually got the tick from those concerned residents. Virtually, that's putting that with a question mark.
Well, I think it's a good idea just to leave out the trees that you're talking about in your proposed way forward, Derek, and you get on and do the path and suss it out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously the old access way would have been eaten up by erosion, and would that be correct, Derek? Just
correct.
battered away by easterly conditions?
Yes, correct.
What sort of guarantee can we get that this new one's not going to be, similar?
The main part of the plan is the pathway from the car park up to the dune top, and from there then we'll work on another angled access way, so it won't be anything like what the old beach access 9 was.
Yeah.
When you've got an access way, a beach access way that goes direct from the top of the dune in a straight line down towards the sea, then that's where you end up with a lot of sand blow and erosion.
Yeah.
So if you angle the access way, which is what we're planning to create, and this will be a little bit of a longer process, if we can angle the access way, then we get less sand blow, less disruption, less erosion. And so that's what we'll work towards. So it is really in, I suppose, 2 stages. The one is to get the pathway constructed first, and then construct the angled access way later.
Right. Barry, I see Barry, you got a question?
Yes, I reading at the top there that we've been provided with a plans of this thing. I haven't received any of these. I've never received any plans of such.
Haven't you?
No.
Well, the one you'll have them on your agenda. They'll be there on your agenda.
Yep.
You just got to get in there. There's the PDFs. The PDFs.
Well, it might be me then. With I have a bit of a technical problem on this thing, but I'll find out later on. But what I've heard and what I'm seeing now seems okay to me.
Yeah, it's just we've had a week or 2 now of easterlies, and I haven't been on the Pauanui beach, but I know what's happening on ours. It just gnaws away at it. That's my only concern. But hey, if you,
it'll all come back.
yeah, well,
it's kind of something we can't stop, but it comes and goes, doesn't it?
Warwick, it comes and goes, and it comes back. We know from experience at Whangamata.
It's just a cost, isn't it? It's just a cost.
Yeah.
And no doubt the new shoreline team will fix this.
That pathway, Derek, it looks as though it would stand up to some of that change of, the erosion.
Yes, one would hope so.
Yeah.
One can never know until you've actually constructed it, but yeah. So in that picture that you're looking at there is not quite the alignment of the proposed pathway. So sorry, whoever's controlling that, is that Nicole? If you can go, lift it so we can see the next couple of pages.
Yeah.
Keep going, please. Keep going, and that's the one.
Yeah.
So what's the pathway constructed of, Derek?
It'll be a Hoggan construction. So that's very hard compacted, sort of almost like gravel fines.
Yeah.
It's not quite crusher dust, but that's provides a very easy walking surface. We've taken account of some comments by some of the consultees and the surf club as well, who are concerned about the surf club and other vehicles accessing around about where point 1 is. We'll make sure that obviously it's managed so that the vehicles can get across that point without damaging it. And also we'll make account of some of the other consultees' concerns regarding the Pahudakawa routes being potentially damaged by the footpath as well. Good thing about the Hoggen is, unlike concrete, it's permeable, so you will get some form of air infiltration occurring through it, which is not that much of an impingement upon the root planes of any trees that are there.
Okay, will it last in that sort of soft sand environment?
What we'll do is we'll put a geotextile underneath that, Chris, to make sure that the fines don't migrate and get lost into the sand.
Looks good.
The skateboarders, they'll be able to get on there?
Well, being a sort of this Hoggen, it's not something that they want to skate on, no.
What about where it goes down from the sort of point from the Pahudakawa down to the beach? Is that just straight sand?
So that'll be a sand base, and then on top of that we'll be laying mulch, and that mulch knits together, creates a nice, relatively nice walking surface, and it stops the sand blow as well and stops the sand erosion. We've worked it and we've trialled it in other locations. It seems to work fine.
Okay.
Very good. Any further questions?
Is it wheelchair accessible, Derek?
Number 2, where it's stating this being number 2 is no. There's no way we can get it wheelchair accessible. Unfortunately, it will be a lot easier than what it currently is, and we're aware and we've observed that there are people who are going to the beach. Yes, not necessarily in wheelchairs, but with the buggies. Everybody seems to be taking those buggies these days, to tote their all of their paraphernalia with them. So as well as being able to take children down in prams, etc., make that a lot easier. It'll also make it a lot easier for buggies, these little trailers and stuff to go down as well.
Fine.
So that's got to be good.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see how it holds up with the sand movement.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Out the front of the surf club has been relatively stable for quite some years, and this is probably why it's a relatively good place to actually try to put this access way. So anyway.
Well, thank you, Derek. You've obviously put a lot of time and consultation into this and dealing with the public. Never easy. But so any other discussion or before I put it to the vote? Okay, can somebody... Oh, I'll rephrase that. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you, board. Cheers.
Okay, moving along.
Apologies, my screen is freezing here.
Okay.
I'm a bit cold too.
Not to mention what's currently. I think we're on 6.
We're up to the action schedule.
Yeah, 6.1. That the resolution is the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board receives the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board action schedule dated 16th March 2020. Can I have a mover and seconder, please?
Yeah, I'll move it. Chris.
Seconder. Seconder.
I will.
Yeah. Thank you. Discussion.
I've just got some points to obviously be raised by here that maybe I'm not too sure who the roading manager is at the moment, but the Puketui Valley Road discussion came up in public forum in February, and I see that these have appeared on here, that they're going to the roading manager, but in what form? Are they going to be put on a project, or are they going to do anything with it, or what?
So I can speak to that one. So that was just some maintenance work. So it wasn't a project as such, from memory. And I think we had someone in public forum, I think it might have been Sid, that came and spoke about responses to RFSs. So we went back and had a look through the system, but we couldn't find any RFSs around the dust and the vegetation. However, we have loaded one and we pushed that onto the team and the contractors, and I'm just chasing an update on that. Obviously, going into the COVID-19 lockdown, everything's kind of shifted around quite a bit with priorities and getting the contractors off the road. So I've requested an update, and I can provide that to the board once I receive that.
Bruce, there was a letter that went to, and I received a copy of it, that went to I think it went to communications, during COVID, and it was a letter of thank you when we got out of alert level 3, because prior to the going in under covert, they'd cut the bottom part of the trees after they cut the top, and everyone down there is absolutely delighted. They reckon it's almost a 2-lane highway down there now.
Okay, glad to hear they managed to get that done.
And said thank you to all of us.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you passing that on. It's good to hear.
Yep.
Was that Brooksy falling off his chair?
No, he's going to get his lunch.
Work?
Oh. Yeah, sorry, I'm coming.
We're having virtual.
Jug on. Just putting the jug on. Is there no other comments?
Oh, well, we're waiting to be led.
Is anybody else got any comments getting down? I'm right down towards Pepe toilet reserves. Anybody else want comments up until then? Okay. So just Bruce again, and I suppose this is a Ross problem, but I see that temporary toilets may be provided for directing public to the toilets at Bob's Takeaway while Pepe Toilets was being constructed. I thought they were going to bring in some portaloos.
Yeah, I don't have the details on that one, and I just spotted that myself, Terry, and I don't recall the conversation around that comment. So, yeah, I don't really have an update on that for you. Sorry, but happy to be corrected on any of that stuff.
Well, Bob's Takeaway supplies portaloos, so maybe that's
it. Because I was thinking Bob's Takeaways is normally the people that empty septic tanks and do portaloos, as opposed to an actual food takeaways, whereas it kind of makes it sound like that. So that could, rather than that, it might be, temporary toilets by Bob's Takeaways. Maybe that's what that comment's supposed to be.
Okay, that makes sense.
Would it not be perhaps more economic to get a temporary portaloo type deal plugged into the sewer?
Possibly, and that could be what they're actually looking at doing.
Like a Portacom type deal?
Yep, possibly. Yep, that could be exactly what they're looking at doing. I'm not sure. Don't have the details from Ross on that one. Apologies.
Okay. I thought you get handbags and a free toilet, and I was just trying to figure it out.
The amount of people that go to this thing, they're going to be pumped out 2 or 3 times a day if you're only using
Well, yeah.
But you could put something along there and drop it in the top of the pump station if you had to.
Yeah, you could do. Yep, and that, like I say, that could well be what they're actually looking at doing.
Okay, my last one was the next one down, which is the last one on the list, which is the Tairua Terrace, and there was some light yellow markings to go on the road. Does that happen?
Yeah.
I'd have to defer to local knowledge on that one if anyone knows.
I was actually up there walking on Friday, and no, they're not. There's no yellow markings on there.
I can
and there's still noises coming from that area over the track from different people.
Over that.
the non-yellow lines and
Yeah.
over people walking around across.
The offending, the person that kept parking the car there, which was causing the problem,
Yep.
he seems to have vanished at the moment, because I'm keeping an eye on that. I get regular updates, and one guy's actually he's quite prepared to put the yellow marks in himself. It doesn't happen, but I'll just keep monitoring that. I'll watch to see what's happening. And
that original design for that thing back in 2010 or 12 or whatever, was always designed to be just a mountable curb for people to drive and pass on the footpath.
Yep.
I don't think parking was ever an option there.
No. Well, the guy lives just up on Paku Road itself. That parks his car there, but he seems to have vanished for a while. However, is there anything? What happened to the grant? Is that all done and dusted? The grant for the heritage? Eileen?
I'm having trouble finding my mute and my unmute button because it keeps moving. Yeah, no, that's all been done and dusted.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So, and the cable ties and all that, Chris, that's all done, is it? I
haven't been over there, to be honest, to check.
No, things have changed, haven't they?
Yeah, well, that's right. I haven't been to Pauanui since before the lockdown, so. But I will. I'll be going over there in the next few days, I hope.
There was a comment on the action schedule last time regarding those.
Yep.
I had an update from Len that went to our action schedule. Are you looking at that at all?
Yes. That's what I was referring to, yes.
Oh, yes, sorry.
These were utilised instead of hose clamps as easy to replace as necessary. Is that what's been written by the doer? Yeah, I think. Yeah. Well, it'll be easy to replace as necessary when the water pipe's hanging in the harbour.
Yep.
Okay.
I've only been hanging pipes for 50 years. And cable ties were never on the agenda.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any further discussion on the action plan?
Yes,
Action schedule. If not, can I put it for vote, please? All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Members' reports. Here it is, the moment you've been waiting for. Who wants to lead off? It's the resolution is that the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board receives the members' reports. Can I have a second? A mover and a seconder.
Yep.
Second.
Yep. Did you get that, Nicole?
No, not at all. Chris
and
moved.
Barry.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Right. Who wants to? Terry, you want to lead off?
Okay. Well, we haven't met since February, so it's been a while, and we all know why. The COVID-19 lockdown has made us form bubbles and all sorts of things, and we have survived the virus, but a small number haven't, which is pretty sad for those who haven't. But now we will have the financial impact, which I think will affect us for the next few years, if not longer, and have some major effect on people. So it's not over yet, baby. She's still got some time to come. During that last period of time, we've had the 2021 annual plan review, where we had 517 pages of submissions, written submissions, and 50 plus presenters online to council. And council will debate and agree on a revised budget in the next few weeks coming into June. And they'll be doing through a line-by-line review of everything that's on there, based on the fact that the world is a different world now. The new normal is upon us. We've found out that online meetings like this work, save a lot of time and travel. They'll become of the future. Following that annual plan review moving forward, there'll be the long-term plan, and there'll be a lot of projects, as Bruce will surely know, that are going to get rolled over, or some will get rolled over to be done in the next annual plan, and that'll affect budgets and all sorts of things. So we're trying to address that at council level. And then following that will be the long-term plan for the 21-31 LTP, which they'll be coming back to council to say, to community boards to say, have a relook at what your musts are, what your needs are, and maybe not too many of the nice to haves. So there'll be a whole lot of discussion around that coming forward. So yeah, it's going to be a whole new focus on where we're going. We'll be drilling down into our financials in terms of our OPEX spend in the business, in terms of our capital spends versus depreciation, and trying to manage debt better. So that's where we are at the moment, and I'm glad you've all made it, and I hope you've enjoyed your home baking on the way. Cheers.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah.
Next up.
Yeah, well, I'll go if you like.
Yeah.
With the COVID, it's been pretty quiet. I've attended a meeting with sports club down there, and I sort of felt it was quite successful. I've been, to be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed after being on the community board several years ago, as you know. I'm a bit disappointed how we appear to have been dumbed down. But yeah, I guess the times have moved on. But I'll discuss that with Brookie later on. What else is there? Like I say, with the COVID, it's been pretty quiet. I haven't had any inquiries from anybody. I sort of almost wondered what I'm doing on the community board a couple of times, but we'll see. There's a few questions to be asked around the place. So that's kind of me. I'm pleased we've come out the other side. It's nice to see traffic going down the road again. Nice to see the shops open and our community sort of starting to breathe again. Okay.
Yep.
Just a question for you, Chris. Have you noticed any vandalism reduced? I know traffic's a lot of people walking and cycling, but the town itself coming through it okay? No dramas?
There's actually a group, and I don't know if it's I can fairly blame them, but there's some people moved into the motel. They're using it like that Pacific Harbour motel.
Yep.
And they're people that didn't have homes.
Yep.
And there's about 8 units, I think, down there rented out. In a sort of short to medium term. There was a bike rack down at outside the shops that was ripped out and thrown down, and I note the lady hairdresser down there fell over some bolts that were left sticking out, and she wound up in the ambulance on Friday, I believe. So there has been a little bit, but actually over the actual complete lockdown, that first 4 weeks or 5 weeks was very quiet down there. There's the odd kid skateboarding down the middle of the road, and that was kind of about it. So the town got away with that reasonably well, I think. I know the policeman, I talked to PJ, and he had said in that was probably week 2, I guess, that week he had done 17 hours extra over and above his shift, just going around answering queries about batch people turning up and things not being right. So, you know, that was probably the biggest concern for most people around the place, the people that ignored the lockdown.
The night flyers.
Yeah, no, there was a fair bit of it. And I guess Whangamata would have had the same. I know Tairua-Pauanui did it because I can see them from home. And I did mention to one guy that mentioned to PJ that one guy keeps turning up and not doing the right thing, and PJ went round. The guy just flat out told lies to him. So, yeah, that's the way it goes. Yeah. But anyway, it's nice to see it all moving again and opening up, and the shops starting to open, and the takeaways starting to open, and the bars will be open again properly shortly, and you know, let the town, like I say, breathe again.
Yep, thank you. Yep.
Um,
Anyone? Yep.
Shall I go?
Yep.
Right, for me, sort of quiet, except I've been rung up 3 times by Gordon over the last couple of weeks. What's happening with the sandbags and the flooding down in Holland Close, and I think, Nicole, you've got that in hand, so that's cool, and Gary Taylor's got it in hand. As I said before, Vicky and Sid Overson thanked council and sent me a copy of the letter and photos of the very nicely trimmed trees in that road, and it's now easy access. The most exciting thing for me was the day before we went into alert level 2. We saw logging trucks working again. We saw 3 loads of house lots of timber heading their way towards Whitianga. The shops were carrying their stock into the shops, and that was just really exciting because we're getting back to normal. As I said before, on social media, there's an excellent website now that Nisha's coordinating on, the chit chat thing, which is purely for businesses and setting up. And I think we should, promote what they're offering. I know that Kevin Shared offered a really neat package with his jet ski, and we need to see them forward because it's not going to be easy. We need to be better budgeting, and I think I'm like Chris. For me, the community board is essential to council workings. We're an advocate for our residents and ratepayers, and that needs to be heeded more. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Anne?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I am able to offer that explanation or the update from Gary if the board would like to hear that. Otherwise, I can email it around. Regarding Holland Close.
Yeah, that'll be fine. I like that. We're just lucky we haven't had a storm. Haven't had any rain.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I can advise through Gary that the project is now on hold. Unfortunately, Waikato Regional Council rejected the consent application. Therefore, they've asked us to do more modelling reports and provide more information. That has been happening during lockdown, so it is just currently on hold, unfortunately. But there will be some comms, he said, going out around this.
So that's like the Ocean Road stormwater, and if we have a flood, it gets pretty deep down Holland Close.
Yeah. Well, they certainly know how to put the price up, don't they?
Yep.
He does add, however, that there are 9,000 sandbags at the Whangamata depot, just should there be a foreseeable event in the future.
And might be needed.
Yeah, if you can actually get them into Pauanui in the flood.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yep, that's right, because we used to go over the hill.
Will be closed.
Yeah.
Where will that money go to? The money that was put aside for Holland Close.
Okay, Barry.
Yeah, well, like everybody else, it's been quite quiet. There's it's quite noticeable in the club. Of course, it's been closed, but now it's opened. You can only allow 100 people in, and the wife and I do the raffles on a Friday night, and there was 28 people there. So it's been very, very quiet, but it's we'll see how it progresses from there. There's down at the south end of the beach, there's been some damage done to one of the picnic tables there. I think Lou Macwell is aware of it. I've seen a couple of contractors down there. We'll see how that goes. But no, it's been quite quiet. It's been surprising sometimes, though, when I go up the hill, what I call the hill, Mount Pauanui, twice a week, just how many people go up there. And it's everybody's quite pleasant and you turn around so they're not breathing on you, so to speak. And yeah, it's been good to see it come back to normal, but quite quiet. So,
Are you talking about Mount Tairua, Barry?
is that what you call it? Yeah.
Yep, it's an official name from 1910.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Barry. Myself, obviously, there's been no meetings as such, just face to face in the street. First of all, I'd like to say that the forced lockdown over the last few weeks, it's presented an opportunity to reflect on many things, and not least the role of our community board. But first, a big tip for our community in practicing what has been preached from Wellington. I found that over the first few weeks, there was more chance of being struck by a low-flying kerrieroo that went out walking on the main road than by a vehicle. But like most other areas throughout New Zealand, we had our share of non-believers and non-conformers, which I'd have to include the scumbags that were caught pillaging seafood.
Yep.
Up on Parku. Fortunately, a very diligent person has spotted this and well done. I clawed my way through the annual plan submissions, and it's pretty obvious to me that people are looking for a change in how our council does its business, or at very least reviews its procedures to better reflect the current financial conditions that will prevail for some time. I noted there's only 266 submissions out of, what, 30,000 plus ratepayers. So whether that's a good reflection or just the usual apathy shown, but that's my lot. So thank you. So I guess somebody moves to second the reports. Oh, sorry, we've moved. Yes, we have moved. Put them to the vote, please.
Aye.
All in favour?
Aye.
Right.
Against? Thank you.
I'll move
6.3.
next, public excluded.
Public, yeah. Well,
Who is that? Sorry, Terry.
Yeah.
I'll second that. Right, and is it Eileen, is it? Who's speaking on this?